I figured I'd do a little bit of a shorter stream, and again, just kind of go over how I do my VOD review process, and mainly try and highlight decisions that I think are interesting from my perspective, like when I'm watching. I think hopefully this process is interesting for some people, and so okay. Sorry, the quality was looking bad. I'm like checking the quality of everything, but it's because it was set to auto. So yeah, I have like a whole new, like I've just been setting everything up, so figuring it out as we go. So again, please let me know if everything doesn't look great or not. But anyways, yeah. So a little bit of a background for people that aren't familiar with KuroKuro. I'm not too familiar with them as a person, um, but I watch them quite a bit when it comes to like learning the game, especially early on when I was first learning Splash. Um, I was a really big fan of kind of how they play. I think the biggest thing from their perspective is like their movement is incredible, and I also think they make a good distinction between when I need to play aggressive and like fight, and having the execution and the mechanics to be able to do that, as well as knowing when to play a little bit slower, when to play around your specials, and so that's what we're kind of going over. And this is going to be kind of the start. Again, I don't have anything fully planned. Hey, also, thank you, thank you. I don't have this fully planned out. I just went on to YouTube and for KuroKuro as a player. With a lot of the players that I watch, I will go to their channel. So if I go like, I made a command for KuroKuro. So when we look at different players, I'll have that information in the like available. So go into their channel, and then sometimes they'll have like shortened videos, but a lot of them like to stream their live content. So I just clicked in on just their most recent stream, but you can see that they stream consistently. There's a lot of really high level players that stream very consistently. Yo, what's up, Celeste? Welcome in, welcome in. So again, when I'm watching players, I just kind of hop into a recent stream that they do. They just kind of play through their solo queue rotation, and yeah. So from my end, like the big thing that I'm looking for is decisions that differ from mine. And a lot of times, especially when watching KuroKuro, one thing that will happen is like I feel like I have to like rewind certain plays and like take a second time or a third time to look at them to really be able to analyze them. Because sometimes there's like a lot going on. So yeah, we'll kind of get going. If y'all have any questions or specific thoughts around anything, let me know, and we can I can break that down. But I'm basically just going to be doing like outside of if anyone has questions, I'm just going to kind of break down the things that I find interesting from my end, or things that I'm learning. I'm basically going to be doing like a VOD review that I normally do, just slow down a little bit and talking through my thoughts out loud. So this is a process that for me, whenever I'm like playing a new game, whether it be Splatoon or learning something else, whatever game that it is, like this is the process that I use to like be able to improve like very quickly. So if it's not something you do, again, everyone has their own method of how they learn and everything. But I think it is really helpful, especially for people that feel like maybe they're a little bit stuck, or maybe they are a little bit burnt out, or you kind of feel like you ran out of ideas, or you don't know why you can't progress and you can't get to that next level. I think this is a very helpful procedure to learn. So Usually they stream like a full rotation, so we'll probably be seeing 2 of the same maps kind of ran over and over. One of the nice like it might sound like a little repetitious, but one of the nice things is that you can really see like consistent decision making across multiple different games. Sometimes they might differ their decision making depending on like the weapons of the enemy team. Sometimes they might make different decisions depending on like their own team, but you can see a lot of general trends in their gameplay because you're watching 2 hours of them playing the same maps. So it's actually really helpful to because sometimes when you watch plays, it's like, oh, did they just do that as a one-off or do they do that normally? And the nice thing about this format and the setup is like you get to see them make the same decisions on the same maps, and that can help you kind of understand when things differ. So starting far left, going pretty slow. Like I said, they're usually pretty good with using their specials. When they find an opening, and especially when they get an advantage, they will hold forward and have really, really insane mechanics. So we'll kind of see that at play. But usually when I go into VOD reviews, sometimes I have specific things that I want to look at. Like sometimes I might watch a VOD and be like, oh, I'm really interested to see how their openings are for this particular, review for this particular map. And I'm just watching every game, but like the first 30 seconds to kind of see how, where they roll out, how they play. And sometimes I just kind of watch and I'm looking for inspiration or something new from, just having a fresh perspective watching someone new. So far things have been pretty standard in this game. I haven't seen too much that I need to stop and break down. Some of the things, especially for newer players, when their team wipes out, just kind of noticing like how they decide to play it. Like, are they going backwards and painting for specials? Are they trying to push the enemy into their spawn? Kind of what that process looks like. And a lot of times with KuroKuro, and just like high level players in general, like they will take space and move forward if they have enough time to do so. And they kind of make that calculation like after they've won the team fight. If they do have enough time, then they'll go for it. But if they don't, then, they'll probably make something happen in mid. Interesting angle. They get pushed a little bit. But you can see when like they're, for a player like Splash, which again is very kind of what you would expect, when they're in more defensive positions, they play around their elevator or their lift, which makes a lot of sense. You'll notice just for small details, like again, nothing really like too important right now, but every time that you see someone like KuroKuro special, like you're gonna see them on like high ground of some sort. So like you'll notice in these little spots, like if you're crabbing, so like let's say they were crabbing in mid, instead of crabbing like out in the middle, like on flat surface, they'll instead try to use slightly higher elevation or use like the top of mid. So you'll notice these little trends, and again, you really want to focus in on the details when you're watching these players. Hope holidays have been relaxing. It's been really nice. It's been really nice. Thank you. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. So we got those back-to-back holidays. Yeah. And again, small things like I'm processing things in my head, but again, I need to be vocalizing a lot of this stuff. So, like in these situations when short range shooters, like the important thing when you're watching short range shooters is that a lot of times, like you'll notice they'll play around cover like a lot. They can quickly move in and around cover, so it's really important to kind of note these things. So there's two things kind of in this fight to note, even though they don't win the fight. One is how they play around this block. They end up like backing up a little bit because they do outrange the Deppels. Kinda. But in most cases, I think they assume that they win the fight here. But another thing you'll see with short range shooters, it's really difficult to aim against dualies. So you'll notice that like a lot of times they'll wait out the rolls. I don't know if we'll see any like Tetra gameplay in this set. A lot of times you'll notice them kind of wait until those rolls, like all 4 rolls happen with the Tetra before they like commit to a fight. Yeah, this is kind of desperation. So, unfortunately, rough game there. Again, not too much special, and sometimes that happens. Again, everyone has like specific things that they're looking for and picking out when they're like going for a VOD review. And then usually I'll kind of just speed run through. Okay, so the other map in this rotation is Mako Mart. So rolling out. Have to be careful about Charger on the enemy team, so you know, still playing left stack, but that's one thing that you have to be mindful of. And yeah, you'll just see like really aggressive moments. So when you see like when KuroKuro goes very aggressive in these spots, you kind of need to like consider like what are they seeing from their perspective that enables them to be able to go in. So again, this is just a very, very common example. But from this kind of scenario, we're checking kind of like context clues. I actually don't know where Charger is. So I would be a little bit scared about Charger potentially being up here, but I might have missed it. They might be on the right side already. But in this kind of scenario, there's like not a lot of ink and we have control of the zone. So this person that's kind of like, it's very common at the beginning of matches for someone to be underneath this left stack right here. And so if you look at the paint pattern, they'll get kind of stuck in this area and you can drop out this way and like look to take fights. Because when you drop off left, you cut off angles and, you know, at the beginning of the match, if they haven't painted in any of these areas, like over here, then you don't have to worry about anyone being in those spots. So you can drop off left and know that you're going to be able to take a 1v1. And against a weapon like Slosher, like that's where short range shooters can really thrive. I think that's one thing with my own gameplay that I get really uncomfortable about as a Splash, which is in those short range fights, really pushing weapons like Slosher that can hit shots when you're kind of running at them, but figuring out ways to cut off angles and kind of make yourself a little bit unpredictable. And you'll see that KuroKuro kind of like drops behind this person. Makes it hard. You know, they get tagged once, but do enough to be able to win the fight. And there's the Charger. But those picks should be enough to be able to like give your team control. And again, little things that I'm noting when they're coming out of spawn. I'm thinking, you know, do they have... So a couple things to check when people come out of spawn. Look at their special meter. See how much special they have. They're about halfway to special. For a weapon like Splash, you build that back at the snap of a finger. So that should be no problem at all. So that's one thing. Another thing to consider, are they jumping to their teammates or are they like swimming in? And kind of thinking, you know, why are they doing that? You know, are their teammates potentially in difficult spots? Do they want to move in from a different angle? When I think about Splash, a lot of times when you're on offense, you're going to crab around the left stack. Either get on top of the left stack, or you can crab from like, you know, one of these angles to get onto left stack. Or you can maybe crab over here as well. That's like another angle that you can get. But in this situation, your team has a lot of control of mid, so they can just probably take the rail, push into mid, or push toward left stack. Probably have to be careful about enemies as you start approaching left stack, but they're probably looking to set up for their crab, and they can kind of paint that extra 50% along the way. When they're on offense, just as a crab player, like using right stack, because again, high ground in these spots, really, really important. But again, we'll keep watching and seeing like how they decide to play in these spots. So, yep, moving left stack. Ooh, leading with bombs. The carbon did have special coming out of spawn. That's another thing you want to keep in mind is like the special situation. But their teammate just lost a fight, so now we're kind of in reset mode, and again, we'll see how they decide to play it in these situations. Ooh. Good ideas. Again, even though this play doesn't work out, we're looking for like strong ideas. So in this situation, start taking this fight and then immediately like change the angle and go from like this high ground. And if the slosher wasn't here, they probably get this pick on the charger, but yeah, their team is stuck in spawn now, so again, we'll see how they decide to play it out here. And these are like interesting questions for me, because for my scenario, like again, when I'm watching these VODs, I'm putting myself in these people's shoes. So like in this scenario, coming out of spawn, I see someone on the left side over here. You know, my teammates are fighting likely people on the right stack, charger over here. So, you know, we can go left side, and a common thing you can do in this situation as a splash is like you paint left and you route all the way up on this high ground and you get crab over here. But they end up deciding to go right here, which leads me to believe, okay, you know, don't want to play around the charger, maybe want to help their teammates. You also get more high ground on the right side over here. So again, you know, this is just a sample size of one so far, but because, you know, hopefully you'll be able to see a couple of games of Mako Mart throughout the session, you can kind of see these trends. But, you know, going right side, fortunately they didn't get shot by the charger there, but, you know, they could position... Part of the reason of them going right side with the charger on left stack over here, they get to be able to push into mid and get into the mid area for basically free. Whereas if they went on the left side at a spawn when they were coming in a little, like at the beginning, go back a little bit more. So in this situation, if they decided to go left instead of right, they wouldn't be able to take as much space forward, and they'd have to take fights like in their side of the map. So, you know, I when watching these VODs, it's really important to, again, look at the trends. But as we go along, I like to make hypothesis of why people decide to do things. And then the more that we see it, we can make these thoughts of like, you know, when they make more of these decisions, does that reinforce our hypothesis, or do we have to change what our hypothesis is? So there's a lot of guessing, but again, when I'm watching these VODs, you want to stay very proactive with whatever it is that you're trying to learn. Again, small details. When going for this crab, there's a big difference between crabbing on the actual stack itself versus getting a little bit of extra height on these blocks up here. So again, just these little details are what matter when you're watching these high level players. For the most part, you can kind of understand, oh yeah, they'll generally play a certain way. But you want to pick up on these very tiny details, and if you aren't doing these things, if you aren't looking for, you know, if you're going to crab on a stack, or a certain part of the map, if you're not looking for specific structures in that area to maximize your value with your special, that's one little area, an avenue for you to be able to improve. Unfortunately, don't get the pick, but keep it going. So now their team has control. Enemy has 2 down, so they're going to probably start looking to move forward. Yeah. Again, another like little interesting detail. When, like, you know, they do want to start moving forward, but again, you're noticing that like they're really comfortable like in this little like area here, playing around this right part of mid, you know, looking to hold and attack this stack. And again, using this uninkable staircase block thing to get that extra height when they're moving around. So, again, I'm always creating hypothesis when I VOD review. I'm always looking at those small details and seeing if I can notice consistent themes throughout. And again, teammates did a great job there of calling out this way, and they're able to get the pick on the roller. Unfortunately, I had to deal with Charger. Yep. So again, they're the last one in. They're prioritizing this right side. So another good question to ask in this scenario, you know, they're first one coming in, and when you're the first one coming in, it's really important that like you kind of set the tone for the rest of your team in this spot. And again, this is another scenario where like you could go left or you could go right out of spawn, and they decide, because I probably would be going left and like getting like painting for crab safely so that once my teammates spawn in, I have a crab and we're ready to push, you know, probably left stack because that's where I'll be. So this is where my decision making differs a little bit from KuroKuro here. So it's, for me, it's like trying to understand, okay, why is that? On their end, they, again, what are these angles that they're looking from? They're moving this way, but their eyes are watching over here. So like these little patterns that we see are really important to spot out. And again, I would not, even if I was to go right, I wouldn't play from like in this manner. But they're really trying to maximize taking space on this right side and kind of moving forward. You know, playing from the extremity of the map, if you don't think that people are sharking on the right side, like if you play all the way on the right, then everyone else is within your vision, basically. So when you're here, you can see everything on the map from this viewpoint. So from like a camera and vision perspective, you see the Charger here, you see someone pushing you here. You know, this type of idea makes a lot of sense. And that's when, if I retake on the left, and if I'm going up here, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I'm doing it on the other side of the map. But again, I'm trying, my understanding, this is the second time where I'm like, I would have actually came out of spawn differently. So now as I'm looking through these matches, now I'm thinking, okay, how, you know, maybe this is like the point of the review for me. Yo, what's up, Dabix? Welcome in. So going into this VOD review, for example, I don't have something specific that I'm trying to learn, but, you know, there's been two decisions that I would make differently than KuroKuro. So now, as I'm watching Mako Mart for the rest of this this VOD review, now I'm looking, okay, when they come out of spawn, you know, am I able to correctly predict why they're doing certain things? And if that differs from what I would do instinctually, then that is a very that's an interesting area of improvement for me, potentially. You don't have to, so the important reason of watching high-level players in this scenario is that you can choose to accept or reject any of the ways that they play or any decisions that they make. But for us players that aren't high-level and don't have, you know, aren't getting, you know, 3,500 XP, if we're not at that level, then I'm going to take the word of a 3,500 XP player. In most cases, when I have this kind of conundrum of, oh, they're going right a lot out of Mako Mart versus me wanting to go left and generally tending left in most scenarios, I'm going to assume that they're correct and just try to understand their thought process. You know, over time, I might come to a conclusion where it's like, oh, I agree and I'm going to try to implement this, or not posting. Oh, whoops, my bad. Welcome in, Flammo. Do you upload your VODs to your YouTube channel? I will. I have a channel that I haven't used in a while, but again, I'm kind of getting back. Is it VOD? Oh, there it is. VOD. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's how long it has been. So, moving forward, because I had like the discussion, or not really discussion, but I was yapping a little bit about some other stuff, and I'm going to be doing a lot of team practice and discussions and stuff on the channel. So I'm going to try to use my normal channel that's like reborn_NA, like after YouTube / I'm going to use that for like more smaller videos that I'm working on. But the NA VODs, right now, it's going to be pretty lazy. It is just going to kind of be a Twitch dump. But over time, I'll probably try to be a little bit more deliberate and, you know, mark it out with chapters and, you know, make it a little bit easier to follow. But in time, doing one thing at a time. Update the title. Oh, wait, did I not update it? Oh, I didn't hit done. Oh, thank you. I appreciate y'all. Alright, I had the title in the channel, but I didn't hit done on OBS. So thank you so much, Yoshi. I appreciate you. Anyways, we'll keep going. And again, playing right side, they get to avoid having to deal with the charger altogether, which, again, interesting point to consider. Are they doing it because they prefer the right side, or are they adapting because they're playing against a charger? And so, you know, the next time that I watch them play Mako, if they're not playing against a charger, we'll test that hypothesis. Do they prefer going left side during those points because charger doesn't exist, or do they just favor the right side just generally? Yep. And this little comfortable corner, like, you know, this also goes to show, like, this area right here I mentioned before, this is like their comfort zone. When they're like pushing into mid, they love being in this area. Could you review me sometime? Yeah, I mean, I do reviews. In the past, I did like reviews as like all of my content. And I got a little bit burnt out of just doing reviews, but I would like to do more viewer reviews, more of my team reviews, and you know, I'm kind of figuring it out, but I do have plans in the future, but it's going to be in kind of smaller doses, just because there was like a huge kind of request for it, which was really cool, and it really helped me learn and experiment from that perspective. But yeah, definitely keep tuned. You know, maybe I'll dedicate like a day to viewer reviews at some point in the future. But right now, you know, it's something I've done in the past, something I will do in the future. But I'm not sure exactly the plans, just because I have like kind of new team stuff going on, and it's kind of, I'm still kind of experimenting with a lot of stuff. But in the long term, yes. Specifically what day, I'm not sure at this point. Yeah, again, something really interesting that, you know, because they like being in this area on this right part of mid around the enemy's right stack, that also could be a reason why they like playing right side, because it allows them to get to this comfort zone of being in mid faster and safer. Nice use of burst bombs to clean up fights. Probably could have kept moving a little bit there. So like, this is where, like, you know, a lot of times this is probably a routine cleanup for them, but this is a situation where I would like heal up. Right now they're really low, so like they could probably back up this way, or even this way, and just like heal up before they finish this fight and let their teammates help them out. But sometimes solo queue decisions happen. And sometimes solo queue is a way for people to like limit test themselves. That was a nice bomb. So again, another like small skill. This is the second time that I said nice bomb here. So, you know, when I'm coming out, if I'm playing left side, am I jumping out of the rail and getting a good bomb? Because they got a good bomb like on the backside of stack, and on this annoying little, like behind this block that is kind of annoying to look at. So again, this is another implementation that I could be learning from. They get those bombs and they hit the person, so like they get to sweep and get information on if someone's hiding behind this block over here. Is there someone hiding here? And they got a burst bomb on their way down. So if this is something that I don't do, then, you know, I'd probably, you know, I'm watching this on YouTube, so if I was doing this on my own, I would probably, you know, pull up my controller, go into the game, go into recon mode, and like practice this. Jump off the rail and make sure that I'm comfortable with throwing that bomb. And that way I'm a little bit, you know, I build myself confidence in recon mode so that the next time I go into an X rank match, it'll feel a little bit more natural. So again, just giving ideas of how I use this setup. They're last one alive, playing it slow. Oh. So I really like this idea here. So unfortunately, they're last one alive in this spot, but it seems like, you know, we did tag someone with a bomb here. So partially, I think they're playing slow because we didn't get a splat on that person. So where did they go? And I think ultimately this was probably the carbon that ends up getting them is probably the one that they hit with this bomb. So unfortunately, they probably were looking out for this shark. Because they saw them jump and throw the bomb at them. But this idea is really cool. We're last person alive. We don't have to rush things. We're in a very good position. So if we play it slow here, and this play works very often. Take it slow. You can see Charger here. Like if we can find a way to like navigate around here and get a free pick on the Charger, because a lot of times Charger in this spot, they'll want to rotate over to the right stack to get a better angle and get a little bit closer to the enemy spawn. So sometimes we can cut them off and find that free pick as they're navigating to, I guess, our left stack, but from their perspective, the enemy team's right stack, and get a better angle to be able to find shots. So this idea is really cool, even though they don't get the pick here. Really, really smart play. A little bit slow there, and again, really good shark from this Carbon. Playing equally patient as a KuroKuro. And a lot of times, like, I'm focusing usually on the person that I'm watching, but it's again, if anyone in the game makes an interesting play or an interesting decision, it's cool to note that. A lot of times I learn from people in the lobby, not just the person I'm reviewing. But I try to focus on the person. Oh, like, oh. Again, just like, this is like a very routine kind of play, or what seems like, but this implementation is very difficult. Get that bomb for initial chip, do a little bit of damage here. So you hit them with a partial 30 or 40 damage, probably 30 damage with the burst bomb, 2 shots. Like that the enemy, that brush is very low. And just look, like, being able to immediately get up to this ledge and like throw this bomb over. And again, when I was in training mode, like if I was sitting in recon mode before, about is there a way to automate it? Yeah, there is. I just need to do it. Oh yeah, I should probably do that. Thank you. Yeah, I got it. But yeah, there definitely is ways that you can automate it. I need to get all that figured out. But again, this little, like, this would be a really nice exercise, because honestly, if I'm being true to myself, I would not be able to be this fluid with, you know, getting over the ledge, throwing the bomb over the ledge on someone that's directly underneath the ledge, and hit that like 10 out of 10 times, you know? Like, it seems very easy, because it's like, you know, no one's shooting at me. This should be something I can do. But while I'm in recon mode, I'll go for this play. And I'll you know, go this exact route, throw a bomb, keep going, you know, pretend to shoot at someone that's escaping. Like, I'll reenact this play and see if I have, you know, if I'm comfortable, like, making this play in the moment. But, like, this spot especially is where, like, I would probably sit and practice this for a few minutes if I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Which would be, like, get on the back part of this ledge, either main strafe or sub strafe forward, and then again get a bomb as fast as I can directly underneath the sledge. And then that would be like, you know, that's not a drill that I would do every day, but that's a drill that I can practice for a couple of minutes, and, you know, that helps me improve as a player. Because this is how, like, watching KuroKuro specifically, this is how I worked on all of my movement options very early on in the game. Is that I would watch them do something and be like, oh my god, I literally could never do that. And then I would practice, you know, I would figure out little drills that I could do with squid rolling, with going up and down ledges very seamlessly, and just get better and better. And so having someone that is that good at doing that gives you different scenarios to practice and see if you can emulate. Using the burst bomb to check under ledges and corners is a big asset. Sounds important to keep an eye out for spots like that on other maps. Yeah. The perfect thought as well in terms of, we're looking at 2 maps, but yeah, a lot of these common ideas will be replicated for every single map. Just the charger left. Probably didn't need to crab, but it is what it is. So again, another decision that if that's something they do often, then I might think like I might be more concerned about why are they crabbing in this spot. They might do it because they're just like scared of letting the charger get another pick, and then that charger gets people to jump into, and like the enemy team right now, they have no penalty and they're close to KO, close-ish to KO. So, there might be a threat of if this goes wrong and the charger makes a big play, I'd rather use my crab now and just make sure that doesn't happen and we get to keep playing the game. They could be doing it to potentially min-max how fast they can paint the zone. And maybe that, they can use crab shots in this area to paint this back part of the zone so that they can like really minimize the amount of points that the enemy team gets here. Again, at this point, I still kind of disagree with this crab, but it feels like more of a emotional response than anything. But again, I could be wrong. I'm always creating hypothesis, and I'm willing to be wrong. Either way. Moving back in. Playing this right side. So they're probably going to go for an aggressive play. Because they don't have any crab meter here. Like because they just use their crab. And like there's this concept that if you've been listening in on the stream, I've talked about it a lot, but there's this concept of passive special charge. What that is the one team will get free special charge in zones. It'll be 4.5 points per second in most cases. Which again, over the course of 10 seconds, that cuts down everyone on the enemy team special, and like their specials are all 45 points or more cheaper because they get a free 45 points from this passive special charge. So in this kind of situation, because we have literally no special and we have a good amount of paint in mid, like there's not a lot of area on the map for us to paint right now, it's going to be really difficult for us to get our special before the enemy team gets their special. So my hypothesis going into this scenario, especially if they had cooler, like there's no cooler on our comp right now, but if we had cooler, if we had a cooler, we definitely go for a fight. I feel very strongly that they do that. But in this situation, because we're not going to be able to get our crab, they're probably going to be a little bit looking for a fight more than playing slow and reacting to the enemy team. You're going to have to be more proactive to make this play happen. The other thing you want to take into consideration with that decision is how does that decision work with the current score elements. So like the time in the match, our score and penalty, enemy score and penalty. 35 or 37 seconds plus however much penalty we have. We have 15. So like this is a long time because I've like gotten in a lot of reps, and you'll kind of develop this intuition the more that you play the game. Like a lot of retakes usually will be like on the short end, it'll be like 25, 30 seconds or so. But right now, minute and a half left. So the enemy team, if they can just hold lead, they're comfortable with our team right now, the yellow team, scoring, 40 points, 30 points. But we just got to make sure from the purple team that they like hold the lead here. So because they know they have that time, they can take a little bit longer, which again is going to build more passive special charge. Instead of 10 seconds of free passive special charge, now we have to take into consideration, 15, maybe even 20 seconds of passive special, which basically is half of everyone on the enemy team special bar is getting painted for free. So we're going to be put and tasked with a fight where we're going to be at a very significant resource disadvantage here. And again, that's why in this situation, the Splash KuroKuro is going to be looking to go for a more aggressive play here. Because, you know, they still have a minute and a half left, but they have to make something happen. If they go with the flow and the status quo of this game, they're not going to be able to retake the lead. You know, they're going to lose the zone when the enemy team gets their specials the first time, and then they will get zone the second time. And like, you know, the enemy team is going to be able to get 2 retakes unless we do something to kind of change that situation. Is this X rank? Yes, it is. Yeah. So a lot of these, sometimes they will stream their tournaments and everything, but most times it's just like X rank. And as the games end, you'll kind of see them go back to the lobby and you'll see their power and everything. Good question. Also, welcome in, Vital. So yeah, I'm expecting KuroKuro to be going for something a little bit more aggressive. Can't drop into mid on the brush because of the charger, but you know, needs to go for some aggressive fights. So they do get an initial pick, but they kind of push it to try to take a fight with that carbon because, again, we can't... Status quo will mean we lose this game here. We need to do something to break this current cycle if we are looking to win ourselves. Ooh. Yeah, able to get brushed in these spots, can't get the carbon, so not able to find the trades to kind of keep themselves back in the game. At this point, I mentioned before, usually retakes take between 10, not 10, like 20 to 30 points depending on specials and other scenarios. So like if the score to getting KO'd, or the score if there was like, you know, 5 seconds left, for example, like we don't have enough time to get a honest and like, you know, build special, paint for special on our side, get our special advantage, being the team that's retaking in zones, and then fighting. So they have to go for something desperate here. All that's to say, they have to go for a desperate play, so I wouldn't expect much to happen here. Yeah, enemy team has their specials ready for it, so... You know, even though they lost this game, I wouldn't go back, at least with some of these decisions at the end, I wouldn't go back and say that, you know, any of these decisions are necessarily incorrect because they lost the game. I think they made the right call in terms of the current situation that they're in. They need to make a play. You know, they're not like just diving, because if they would have dove here and then they got splatted by the charger, then I would be like, oh, like, you know, this play, you know, there's probably better ways to approach this, which is kind of like how they did it here. But yeah, good things to consider. Again, we're looking for long-term trends. We're not looking for, you know, specific decisions. And just because a play doesn't work out, like, just because plays don't work out doesn't mean that it was a bad decision. And I think a lot of people trap themselves into this thinking when they watch their own games, where they feel like, oh, we won this game, so I feel like we generally made good decisions, or we lost this game, so like I need to figure out what we did wrong. Winning and losing provides trends, you know, like if you lost a game, there probably are things that you can do better. However, when you lose, you're still going to make correct decisions, and you want to identify when you make good decisions and you lost, or when you make bad decisions, but it still works out for you. So you have to be very critical and not worry too much about winning or losing specifically. Sometimes I'll use their, you know, when you look at the rotations, you can see like their gear build and stuff, so sometimes you can use that as information. I like personally using either sub power up or sub saver. I really like to put power into my bombs, but swim speed on Splash is very good as well. You can run special charge additionally, so you know, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But again, we're looking at general trends with their builds. I'd be a little bit surprised if they went double speed here, but yeah, I don't know. Usually I skip past this, but it's just for interesting thought. So they ended up going with special charge instead of sub saver. Little run speed never hurt. Yeah, you can run like a sub. I know earlier on in the game, people experimented with like a lot more. I think some people ran like a main of run speed for a bit. Run speed is nice. I think the cool thing about Splash as a weapon is like it doesn't need anything. You can literally run anything on Splash and it'll feel strong. I think swim speed is probably its biggest asset, and Crab for this kit specifically is really important and integral to its success. But like, I love being able to like I love the flexibility of the gear with a weapon like Splash, which is just something really interesting. Versus some other weapons, you feel like you're kind of pigeonholed into having to run specific gear builds because, you know, your weapon has really bad, you know, ink management, or you know, you need to run QR or something, and it's kind of tough. But a weapon like Splash, even with all the nerfs it's taken over the course of the game, it's still very, very strong. Does run speed help with the Crab? I actually have no idea if that is the case. Usually run speed helps with like while you're shooting, like when you're shooting and you're in a fight, you can kind of like help, you can better space out like moving forward and backwards and adjusting your positioning to the enemy. Because that was like a thing like during the Splash and what's it called? Splash and V machine meta that was happening at the very beginning of the game. There was a lot of machines that would run speed, for example, because they could space out, like they have a range advantage to the Splash that they would see in basically every game. So like when they played against weapons, generally that would be of equal range or less range. That extra run speed really helps them just like micro space during the actual fights. Yeah, some people might think that Splash is like OP because like it doesn't have any recoil, which is valid. But I think like I really like how Splash is as a weapon in this game. Oh yeah, so I mentioned before, like if we see a Tetra, if we see a fight against a Tetra, a lot of times we'll take it slow as the Splash, because it's like if you're trying to aim, if you're out in the open and you're shooting, because if you're shooting at someone, you can't be as mobile. In this game, like you can have a little bit of mobility when you're firing and taking a fight, but you're pretty much like a sitting duck at that point. There are ways that you can kind of cheat that a little bit, and I'm sure throughout this session we'll see KuroKuro do it. But again, anytime we see a Dualies or Glugas or Tetras in this spot, look to see how they play around those roles, because a lot of times Tetras will just use all 4 of their roles. So you know, we might be able to hide behind cover, or you know, change our angles and be very focus on moving when they're rolling, and then we focus on shooting after Tetra does their 4 rolls. Again, hypothesis, but if you've played against Tetras, you know how difficult it is to be able to aim at them correctly. I don't know how Tetra players are able to aim themselves, because it feels very difficult. Yep, so interesting thing here. They have 3 people going onto left stack. So before, like KuroKuro once, like they dropped left side to fight the person that was playing underneath here behind our left stack, which again is a very common spot for the enemy team to be fighting at the beginning. But now we have 3 people, and we actually have someone that's in front of us that actually gets up to this high ground, and we can get on this high ground because we don't have to worry about, we have to be careful about the Stamper a little bit, but we don't have to worry about a charger like hitting us. But because they get a teammate that plays on the front of the stack, now KuroKuro has the decision to swing left or swing right and be able to help with them, or they can focus on the zone. So again, they play this a little bit different because of, you know, what the enemy team's running, how our team is positioning. There's a lot of moving variables, so don't come to conclusions now. Again, we're looking for longer term trends. Tetras and H3 require a special form of aiming. Yeah, H3 is another weapon that, like, watching good H3 players it's incredible, but it is not for me. And yeah, here we kind of swing right. help clean up these fights. So before in that last game, we were in this kind of we were in that situation where like our team was down like 37 points, including penalty. There was a minute and a half left. We had 0 special charge instead of having 50% now. So this is probably a more common occurrence. Maybe not having this much. This is probably closer to 60%, honestly. But you know, usually when we retake, we're not going to retake with 0. That's because we in that last game we crabbed to like at the end of the fight. But in this spot, we should, throughout the course of the fight, we should build some amount of special. So once we get into this scenario, we can usually build up a crab. Even though the enemy team gets that passive special charge that I mentioned before, we can build our crab super fast. The other thing about the openings of the match is that usually the sides of the map don't get painted. So even if we were at 0% special, just as an example, we could definitely... Yo, Flash, thank you so much for the raid, my friend. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. How'd your stream go? How were things? Hope you're doing well. Hope you have some fun New Year's plans for tomorrow. We're probably going to be dealing with a lot of fireworks, so our poor pups gonna be whining a lot. Gonna need a lot of love and support. But yeah, in this situation, and especially since we're not losing in this scenario very early in the game, so we don't have to worry about KO or risking getting KO'd. So my hypothesis is that they're gonna look to build up a special, and they're gonna take that next fight with the enemy using their special. It's 5 a.m. Holy, yeah, definitely get some sleep. But I guess you're almost. I mean, I guess you're already New Year's Eve, so very, very cool. But yeah, we're just doing VOD review here. Just kind of talking through. Like I do a lot of these VOD reviews with myself, and I watch it off stream. But I figured why not just like stream and talk through it and everything. So yeah. So again, because my hypothesis, you'll have a lot of fun. Thank you. Hope you have a good night's sleep, or a good morning sleep if it's 5 a.m. for you. But thank you. So because my hypothesis, I mean, one thing, check if my hypothesis is right. Are they going to set up for a crab and paint the rest of this crab? Which I'm 95% sure that that'll be the case. And then the other thing I'm thinking about here is like, where are they sitting at specifically? I mentioned at the very beginning, they're probably going to play right stack. But from my own experiences, having played Splash and played Crab, your positioning is going to be very dependent on where the enemy team is when you use your Crab. Because you can play closer up toward the front of the stack if the enemy team isn't already pushing you. But if the enemy team starts pushing to the stack themselves, you actually want to back up a little bit and play on that uninkable block that you see very often. Yo, what's up, Fizzy? Thank you for the water. Do I have water? I do have some water. It'd be cool if you recorded what you did during an offline review, even with minimal editing. It could be helpful. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I really should. This is the year of like, I just need to like get things out there. I'm very uncomfortable with like, with making videos. Because I have a lot of ideas for stuff, but I just need to get into I need to build that momentum and everything. And yeah, recording things, like doing things on stream, I think helps me a lot, but I think being able to record them off stream as well would be a good idea as well. But I think over time for the next year, I would like to do these types of reviews with different weapons, like at least like once or twice a week. Because like KuroKuro, I was looking at I didn't get to watch the review, but they were playing because in the King's Cup final that happened, that Nintendo tournament, in tower control, like they played Squeezer, but in tower control they would play a Splattershot Pro, or like Forge Pro, the one with the Pro with a suction bomb and the Booyah bomb. But they were playing a zones rotation with it, so I think that'd be interesting because I'm not really a Squeezer player, but I think Forge Pro is something that I would potentially be interested in playing. Minimal editing, better than bad editing, for sure. Better visuals. Yeah, good to keep track of. Thank you. Anyways. So yeah, we get our crab out on right stack. Like I said, the benefit of being more forward here is like we get to hit these angles. So this angle, if we played on the uninkable block behind us with Crab, even though we get slightly more higher ground, we're considerably farther back. So we wouldn't be able to hit this area with our Crab shot, which does chip damage to these people. And it also, with the Crab, it's an expo shot, so it just shoots out a lot of paint around the people that are playing on this plot, which helps any teammates that are playing on the left side, that are playing underneath these ledges. That extra paint and extra chip damage makes it a lot easier for them to be able to clean up these fights. But we see that for the majority of this Crab play, they play over here. A couple things that I want to note. Like, they play on the very left side. So if we look at, like, the stack, when they're fighting, like, when they're, like, shooting shots on the left, they maximize their range by playing all the way on this left side. And you'll see, as we start taking the fight over to the right side, they don't stay over here. This is a really, really important concept for a Crab user. Honestly, for any special. But, like, short-range shooters, this is something that I learned a lot from KuroKuro. That, like, usually it's, like, with their main weapon, not necessarily in Crab, but it's important to keep in mind with Crab, too. But you'll notice throughout the course of this fight, as we start looking at the right side, you'll see their movement shift over to this right side, which increases their range, but it also makes the angles that they can fight with their teammates way, way better. So you'll see them kind of shift a little bit. You see them shifting over to the right side here. Now with them, because if they were still on the left side, they would have to angle up a shot really high to be able to hit this person. But because they shimmied their way over to the right side, now they can see everything that's happening along this right side, which makes this pick significantly easier and, makes it so that your teammates probably stay alive. This gets cleaned up faster. This person has less time and is in more danger to do anything up here. And yes, the visibility, like you said, for sure. If there is any chance of flanks, we have perfect vantage point. So again, these small details is what makes you a strong player. It's not as much like, because a lot of times when I do coaching or VOD reviews with a lot of like newer players, a lot of times, and I get into this cycle too, but a lot of times they feel like, oh, I need to know that one thing that's gonna take me the farthest. Like if I'm stuck in low level or something, there has to be like one significant thing that will get me out of low level or get me to like my next goal. And yes, some things will be some skills will be more valuable than others to help you continue to improve and see those results. But the important thing to note is that it's always about the details. You always stay curious, always dig into the details. Like all these little tiny details that I mentioned about, shift, like your micro positioning or, the way you take fights against certain weapons. All these little tiny details are what make up being a better or worse player than, than the people that you're playing against. So, when you find these small wins, like cherish them, because over the course of a Splatoon match, there are thousands and thousands of decisions that you can find a very tiny advantage over the opponent by making these little tiny adjustments in your micro decision making. So these little tiny details matter. It doesn't feel like it because sometimes you might not use it throughout the course of an entire match, but when you've found, a handful of things that you're consistently doing better than the opponent that you're playing against in your own matches, that's going to make a big difference into your, that overall win rate that you see. I know it's like a very common interview, or like it's a common thing that people bring up, but Roger Federer, who's like one of the best tennis players in the world, I think his overall, I'm going to butcher the stats a little bit, but his overall win rate, like match win rate, was like, it was like 85%, something crazy, but they're like, you know, one of the best players of all time. So like if they win 85% of their matches, you would expect that, like, you know, if they're dominant in their field, they win almost, you know, all of their matches basically. You would imagine that they're just dominating their opponent. But the interesting thing about it that like really had me thinking is that their I don't even like point win rate, I guess. Like in tennis, like the one, you know, someone serves and then you go back and forth. I don't even know like what that is considered. I just, whatever. The point win rate of like each individual thing throughout the course of the match, each point that you play, I think he had like a 55% win rate or something, or maybe it was like 52 or 53. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's very, very close to 50%, just like on the surface. So all this goes to show that like having a tiny, tiny, tiny advantage on each point, each of those tiny decisions and tiny details that you can find an advantage over your opponent will lead to a significantly stronger like match win rate. You know, so all this is to say, if you want to win a tournament, if you want to be a consistent tournament winner, you have to scrape a couple of percentages with every single match that you play. Do you watch or know any high level Dreadringer players? There is one that I watch, and at some point I'll do a VOD review on them. Um, I don't think they're a competitive player by any means, but they're like, I think they're like a 3200 or 3300 X rank Dreadringer. So definitely like I'm able to learn a lot from them. But they're a very good player. I don't know a lot of, like, obviously Charo's a really good Dread that, you know, streams and has visibility and has gameplay you can review. I don't know too many other Dreadringers, but yeah. Anyways, we'll keep it going. So we get a clean pick there. Last two people we know, top right, and then their spawn. Yep. And exactly what I was saying before. Right here, I probably wouldn't have pushed as much as they did, but you know, they're a lot more confident with their aggression than I am, so it makes sense. But we're taking this 1v1 against the Tetra. We're just gonna disengage. This is not a good fight for us. You know, if we needed to rush this, which in this spot, like we're in a really good position right now. Enemy team stuck in their spawn. We're in control of the map and we have specials to fight with. So we don't need to, like, the status quo is in our favor currently. But just disengage. But if we were going to engage, you know, maybe we get behind this block, climb up and look to attack them once they finish their rolls. But there's no reason for us to push in this scenario, especially since the enemy team's going to be spawning right now. Goal to push them back as soon as that was achieved. They disengage. Yeah, really well said. They're fighting for this space because they, yeah, I like the way you put that. Because yeah, they get to fight for the space. And because they were able to fight for the space, now we get this opportunity to shark. That's another concept that you can kind of take from this. We're able to successfully fight for space and hold this choke point. And once we hold this choke point, now we can actually shark over here. So if anyone plays over here, and a lot of times people like to, you know, very similar to what we do when we're coming out of spawn, where we take the rail and immediately push this left stack, we might be able to find free picks on people that are looking to push into mid. So yeah, hold the space, disengage. Now we can shark a little bit. And now for the rest of the game, they have to be worried about the threat of that shark. And ultimately, we're just kind of wasting their time, which is good. Yeah, again, small details. I don't have enough time because I would be here for like 20 hours. But like, just again, when you see these little small details, why are we throwing a bomb and lofting it so high in the air? You know, like, we can use it to help with this fight, but yeah, whenever you see these like little tiny details, don't go into this review and just be like, oh, they're fighting this person. Like, you have to look at the whole story. Yeah, how do we play around that auto bomb? Why are we throwing this bomb really high in the air when normally we're trying to throw it at the people directly in order to fight them? You know, this bomb hits on the front here. You know, maybe that was intentional, so that person, if they climb up, they have no paint. Maybe it was a missed throw where they wanted it to go a little bit deeper to do damage to the person that's over the ledge. So this is where, again, you need to see those trends over time and kind of see, you know, if they go for these plays, which this is, probably don't see them throw it all that much. You'd have to, like, that's something where you'd probably go into your own matches and experiment yourself. You know, I don't have a great answer. I think both make sense, of like hitting over the ledge to do damage or to hit the front of the ledge to make sure that you have paint to maneuver. Because having paint and maneuvering is really important for a short range shooter. Yeah. And again, they did a lot of damage to this person, so they play it a little bit. I think they play it a little bit faster here because a lot of times I would probably play like to make sure none of these shots hit me. Like, I'd play farther back and then I would immediately dive the second that they finish their rolls as the Tetra. But the important thing to note here is that they kind of run at them a little bit as the rolls are finishing up, because they're very, like, in terms of the HP battle, like, this person has very low HP, we are at full. Because we hit them we hit them a little bit with some of our fall-off shots, and I think we hit them with a burst bomb potentially. So we're winning the health battle, so we can afford, against Tetra, it takes 4 shots to splat you, so we can afford to take 1 or 2 shots ourselves. Partially it's that, and then partially, if we play too far back, we give them the opportunity to Reef Slider, either Reef Slider into the zone or Reef Slider to counter us in this fight. So I would assume, and again, this isn't definitive, this is just, I'm looking for trends. The reason why they push this as fast as they do is partially because of the HP lead that they have in this fight, as well as trying to deny them the opportunity to use a Reef Slider. But either way, you'll still notice these little tiny changes of angle. So I'm not going to be able to break down every single scenario, but as they start moving forward, they don't just run at them in a straight line, even though they have this HP lead. You'll notice tiny shuffle, changing directions, and then, oops. You know, so like they do this like zigzag pattern before they actually, you know, drop on this person. So again, attention to detail. Even though I mentioned before, they're rushing at them a lot faster than I would normally do. I would play a lot farther back. Even though they're playing very aggressive, they're still very, very meticulous with how they move in this scenario. They're still zigzagging and moving left to right so that they're mitigating as much damage as they can as they move into this person. A lot of people, oh, I have health advantage, I can just kind of run at them and maybe we trade or something, or I just like get my shots off before them. But those little patterns really, really, really matter. And a player like KuroKuro has wonderful movement. Even just like, again, I can't break down every single play to this level of meticulousness, but even when they're shooting in this spot, they're still kind of, you know, leaning over in continuing that zigzag pattern, where like they dropped off to the left and then now they're veering a little bit right with this final bit of the fight. Yeah, they have just been having to deal with rollers again and again in all these games. Roller is not a fun matchup for this weapon. So unfortunately they get spotted here, but again, I had a question. I have this lingering, ongoing question from that first game where I normally would go left side. And when they were playing, when KuroKuro played against the Charger, they went right side to avoid the Charger that was on left stack. Or maybe they just prefer going right side. But now there's no Charger in this game. And now we see them moving to the left. You know, they need to also, but again, the answer, just like, we still need to collect data. It doesn't necessarily mean it's just because of the Charger that they go left or right. That is maybe one factor, but we can paint a lot more on this left side because there's a lot more paint on the left side than like sharing paint with 2 of our teammates on the right. And we have a lot of like, we still have to paint a decent amount. We can get it really fast because like again, we get that passive special charge as we're setting up to fight. So we're still gonna get our specials super quick. But again, look for these trends and see if we can fully, over time, we want to come to the conclusions of like why they do things on average. Whenever you're learning to grind the game, you're learning to improve, everything is probability. I know that like it doesn't feel like we're gambling. I guess maybe when you play X rank, it feels like you're gambling your points. That's a little bit of a different side of things, but everything is like these probabilities. Your plays aren't always going to work, but you want to make the strong decisions that will win you like that sequence more often than not. Could also be that there's two teammates on the right. Yeah. Again, perfect. We're implementing this data and we're trying to, come to that conclusion. And it might not be something that we can do in, like, we're not going to be able to do it over the course of 1 game or 2 games. We may or may not be able to come to a conclusion based off of the course of 2 hours of gameplay. But we'll have more information, we can make a better hypothesis, and we can continue to reinforce that decision making. And that's where when you're doing these VOD reviews, you need to have those hypotheses while you're going through the VOD review. So you collect data, you observe at your decisions, teammates' decisions, enemies' decisions, and just try to strengthen different parts of your decision making, or learn, in the case of how they fought that Tetra and like that zigzag pattern, or when they like went over this ledge in the previous game and threw a burst bomb on the really low paintbrush or ink brush to clean it up. There might be little nuggets in terms of the mechanics and making sure that you're, able to fluidly replicate these mechanics from that side of things. I also like it's been 20 minutes of the VOD, and I think it's probably only been like 15 minutes of actually watching. But we've been streaming for an hour and 15 minutes. So again, when I'm watching these VOD reviews on my own and I'm not talking through them, sometimes I watch it at a higher speed once I'm comfortable with the decision making that people the decisions that people make, and I'm like comfortable. I understand KuroKuro. I understand how they play the game. I'll speed it up on my own, and I also don't have to articulate every single thing. But obviously, for our purposes, we want to talk through it. And if you're, in a team environment going through VOD reviews, you need to be able to kind of talk through these things. Nice bombs help clean up the fight.
この人のこと忘れてたんだってなるから、もう名前言えなくなっちゃったんですよ。あの人さ、あの人どんまい。あの人いいやつアピできたのに。どんまい。これでいいやつぶれなくなっちゃったね。
This is the second time that they've used their crab in a pretty favorable spot for them, where their team's kind of winning the fight, and they kind of use crab to be able to like stir up the fight, which makes sense because they have a lead. They retake zone, so they're in a comfortable spot. A weapon like Splash can paint for special again pretty fast. But again, interesting things to note. Again, if you want to, like, you can break down these very tiny decisions. When they approach this person, which again, this is very dangerous. We're asking to get ledge camped here. But like, if you look at when they're pushing, like, they decide to jump on top of this block specifically. When they were dropping off, they played on the far right side of the block. Because this far right side, they could use this surface of the block right here to give them cover from people that were over here. They can use this as cover. But fighting against this person, we could look to drop off immediately here. I would probably, I don't feel comfortable in this spot. But you could either go for that, but they go for this play up here, and then they end up like backing up and healing up and everything. So you do get to waste a little bit of time. That allows your teammates to be able to get into positions to, get onto ledges and help paint this area so that we can push that person back. But definitely a little bit scary. One of the golden rules of Splatoon that I always have to remind myself whenever these scary things happen, you can get away with a lot in this game by going fast. Like if you're fast enough, a lot of times you can like you can cut across mid and be in this open spot, but if you do it at a weird timing and you go very you're very fluid with your movements, you can get away with a lot of plays that you otherwise would not be able to make. So again, little details. There's no like optimal way to play the game, but it's really good to try to learn from other people. And again, even though it kind of lined up with our crab timing, this person finishes their rolls, and we see that like we initially started behind this block as cover, but we saw that they used up all their rolls, so now we can be a lot more comfortable. We have that HP lead. We can very comfortably kind of clean up this fight here. Yep. And again, we analyze. I'm going over these cycles to try to help provide that repetition. I'm not going to be able to do it because, again, this would take 20 hours for us to be able to go through all of this. But when you are looking for specific things to learn, these are the things we want to think about. So 3 minutes left. Our team has a very comfortable lead. We have a big penalty, so we're not looking to KO at any time soon. Because like I said, it's about somewhere between 20 to 30, maybe 40 points. This is like the amount of points that it takes for the enemy team to set up a strong retake with specials and proper positioning. So like they're gonna retake before we even get to the end of our penalty. So like we're not threatening a KO. So we look at the time, we look at the score, we look at our penalty, we look at our special, which we have to build a lot of special. There is a decent amount of paint in the map because we just retook, and then enemy team got paint down in mid. But I don't know, it'll be close. This is where like it's a good hypothesis. From our decision making here, I think in a lot of spots we're really cozy in this position, so we'd like to be able to paint for our special, and we just sit on top of right stack and we get our special out and we fight with our special from high ground. We would love to do that, but the question is, do we have enough time in this specific scenario to go for that? Or is there a better play that we can go for? So, my hypothesis is that we are not going to have enough time to build the special. We could stall it out, but we might be a little bit more aggressive with like some burst bombs and poking at the enemy team. But again, that being said, like they don't have the greatest like retake tools. Like a lot of these weapons especially need to drop off of these spawn ledges to go for plays. Like roller's very scary when it can shark in like an open area on the map. Has a very difficult time like getting out of spawn. Decav, kind of similar. It can play in a lot of fights around mid and around different parts of the map, but it's going to be a little bit awkward coming out of your own spawn. So I think against this comp, we probably will punish them again with those aggressive burst bombs and playing a little bit more toward the front part of our of this right stack. But we'll see how it goes, and maybe we do build special in time, or maybe we just immediately die to the roller, and all this is a moot point. That's always the funny thing. You get your brain working, and then you don't get an interesting conclusion, or you don't get a closure on your hypothesis. That's funny. Yeah, and again, looking at details, they come out of spawn. They're playing right side. They have teammates on left, so kind of like what Yoshi was saying before. When our teammates were playing on right side, we move in on the left because that's an open part of the map that's going to be important for us to hold at some point later on in this push. Opposite situation here. We have teammates on stack, teammate in mid. Let's move right side and provide this alternative area to approach from. And, so as the splash player, you want to be thinking, okay, if I'm going left and I'm retaking on the left side, where am I going to be looking to use my crab? What are potential high areas, high points on the map? What objects can I use to jump on to use my crab? And then same thing on the right side. you know, we can crab up here, we can crab on the plot ledge, we can crab on the little block that's up here. There's a lot of different areas that we can look to crab. But these are like the things, we start putting all these pieces together. These are the things that we're going to want to be thinking about. But yeah, we look here. We use this area, a little bit of extra height. You know, we're kind of leaning a little bit toward the right side. Even though we got ledge camped that one time by the Stamper, they really like sitting on this spot. This extra height, if they throw a burst bomb, it gives them a little bit of extra height, so their burst bombs will go a little bit farther. You know, if they want to paint over this ledge and get paint around, this high ground allows them to paint a little bit farther, which again, these tiny attentions to detail really matter. And if there's someone that you're taking a fight with, you can immediately drop and like you have this little area as like this wall is cover. So just things to think about. Yeah, again, this is another spot, like as they're transitioning into mid, being in this area, getting into this cozy spot over here, maybe pushing up this wall over here, maybe backing up and going back around this way if you have to go for a more defensive route. But this is like this is like one of those like hot spots of us transitioning from, you know, coming in on right side and transitioning to get into a position to be able to fight in mid. So these patterns, where we're positioning, the types of plays that we go for, are really important. And this is where we kind of back around. Teammate wins a fight. You know, this spot, again, time hasn't changed too much. This scenario hasn't changed too much. We basically have our special, so I would imagine we stay on right stack and we look for a good special here. Clearing out all those potential flank routes around. You know, again, tiny attention to detail. They're leaning on the right side. Why is it important that they're on the right side in this spot? Honestly, there's two things. One of them, you know, if the Stamper, you know, they're in a spot that if the Stamper pops out this way, they can back up. They're not too far forward to where they get punished by the Stamper. If anyone drops this way, you know, they don't have to worry about that. Also, playing on this right side, you get this visibility to look for this flank. If someone drops over on the right side and starts pushing us, we get to see that. That's really important. I don't think I need to make a video about this at some point, but like actually let me just quickly I have a Notion document. Oh, I'm not signed in on this PC. Maybe I can do it on my phone. Planner, 1 second. I don't want to lose this thought. This is another thing that I do, which is like kind of meta, where like I'm trying to make videos. So when I go through this VOD review, I'm like, oh, this is like a common theme that I see a lot, and I want to make this. So let me visibility when holding positions, because this includes both like retakes and holds, high ground plus angles to see entire map. Like it's really important because a lot of times, like for newer players, they'll run into scenarios where they're like, you know, oh, I got flanked. Oh, someone, you know, caught me off guard. Someone dropped off the side of the map and I got flanked. And a lot of times it's because they're positioning in spots where they don't get this insane, like we literally get to see every single drop point. There is the far right side. So like there is one option all the way over here that we can't currently see. But I think getting into this position, we saw that like no one's in that spot currently. But, you know, if they did have a Zuka or if they did have a crab, for example, then we would need to implement that. And if we had to worry about someone crabbing from top right in this spot, then this would not be a good position. But you can just see, like, we saw this in, like, the first, is it Marlin Airport? I don't remember the name of the map. But, like, that first map, the other map in this rotation, we had these moments where they're sitting in spots where they get this vast amount of visibility. This is so important being able to absorb as much information as possible in order to make correct decisions, and also to make sure that you don't have someone dropping on you and catching you off guard. Because we're kind of like sharking in the spot. If someone dropped right here, they think that they're being sneaky, but they run like, they're gonna sprint forward because they're trying to get into mid as fast as they can, and we can catch them as they're moving and get a free pick. Versus if we weren't aware of them, they have the jump on us. But it's similar to earlier in this match when we were sharking on our left stack, and then we looked for a pick on like it's one of their shooter players, but the enemy Carbon was also like they were sharked and they were in this spot. So now we're kind of in that opposite position where we're the one looking to stop sharks versus before we were sharking and got stopped. So really interesting stuff. And then again, as we start looking to set up our crab, we're playing in this higher position. Our teammates are taking fights. We don't really have a good foothold in front. Before when we were playing crab and we kind of shimmied over to the right side, it's because we had two teammates in front with us. So we were fighting as a team, so we could go for those more aggressive angles. In this scenario, we're the only person on right stack, so we need to play a little bit more, slower and a little bit more passive. So that's why we're playing on this high ground up here. So I would imagine we're going to look for, a crab spot. Yep, again, little tiny details. They shimmy off this block and shimmy to the left in order to be able to get shots over here. It's because you can get a shot up here, you can get a shot behind this, and you can also get a shot behind that, like this giant wall that's even like a layer down. You can hit all three of these by being able to shimmy a little bit to the left. So these micro positionings really change your options of what you can do with your crab and the angles that you can hit. Smart positioning and minimize unexpected spots by avoiding being in an effective range of weapons. Yeah. And the more you play, the more comfortable you are with all of that. So the other thing that I want to mention with this, so as we start this crab, we know that there's a stamper over here. They're all the way over here. And this is where like high level player intuition, this is something that's like really difficult to like. This is why getting in reps and playing the game is really important, because this is not something that you like just know. Like it's not something like, oh, I need to know this, so now I'll know it for the next time. This is like almost like a feeling based thing. But you get a feeling like when we get off this high ground and we shimmy over to the left to help our teammates on this left fight. While this is going on, there's a signal in the back of our head that, hey, there's a stamper on the other side of the map. We have this entire stack protecting us when we shimmy to the left side. We've cut off the angle to have to deal with that person. So they're not a threat now, so we can ignore them in the very short term. But, how long would you predict for that person to be able to, get into a position to like one-shot us? Get into melee range. They'd have to, run this way. They have to climb up this wall. It'd probably take 3, 4, 5 seconds. So while we're going for this fight over here, we also have this other play happening that we need to be thinking about, where the more that you play, these high-level players, they have this mental clock, and they're keeping track of when they need to refocus on this play on the right side. And even just getting 1 or 2 explo shots on the left side can make the difference between your Zipcaster person being able to find a pick or not. Or you being able to 90 someone and find a pick yourself. So we go for this play, shimmy on the left, we get more range over here, we cut off any angle that this person would be able to do anything. And then once we kind of get our value, we either got picks over here or these people are backing up. Now, okay, the left side's clear, and eventually they're going to start pushing back on the left, but now I have time while they, heal up and wait for their teammate to spawn in. Now I can focus my attention back on the right side with that problem with the stamper that we saw before. And that's where, okay, we haven't heard anything. That's when we start checking this area. We haven't heard anything. We have to make a little bit of a prediction because this person could be coming up this wall right here. We're still not in one-shot range if they do climb up this wall, but they could come up this wall or they could, you know, be pushing this way. So we can kind of cover both of them. You know, we can't one-shot it as easily when they climb up this wall, but, you know, where are we positioned right now? On this ledge. Playing around ledges is so important because if this person, you know, the play that we had was pretty routine. We saw them over on the right side. So it's very easy for us just to, like, you know, we're on high ground. Our expo shot's going to do a ton of damage and we have easy visibility to clean that up. But again, what happens if that person pushes up here and then slides at us and threatens to one-shot us because they're in melee range? We're going to have a hard time one-shotting them unless we get perfect timing with our prediction. So we mitigate that. You know, we can't aggressively cover both these angles, but we can aggressively focus this right angle, which is the one that ends up happening. But if they climbed up this wall, if we see them move up, we can just drop off the ledge. We're on the ledge, so we immediately drop off. We go back into middle. Our teammate is coming out of their zipcaster. The enemy team is in a 4v2. All we have to do is back into mid, stay alive. We'll have teammates to help us clean up this fight. So even though we can only, like, even though we can't win this fight definitively in both situations, there is zero chance, unless that Stamper makes a godlike play, there's a 0% chance that KuroKuro is in any chance, like, there's no danger of them ever getting splatted here. And because we're already winning the other fight, we're in a 4v2 right now. We've won the fight on the other parts of the map. So it's not important for us to get the pick on the Stamper. It's important for us to not get splatted by the Stamper. You know, we do find the pick, so we love to see it, but really important. You know, again, situation here. So we just use our special when the enemy team's starting their retake. You know, 30 points. That's we're now in that range. I should make a video on that. I'm trying to speed things up because I'm not gonna be able to stream super long. But again, I use like 20 points to like 40 points as a reference. Like, this is just very general of like the amount of points that it costs you to be able to build your specials and get into good positions for a retake. So I use that as a rule of thumb. The reason why that's important is because we're in this range. We need 30 points to KO. So the enemy team's going to have a little bit of a struggle. Like, they're under the clock now. You know, if we were at 50 points instead of 30 to KO, or 55, I guess, with this math, then they would be outside of this range. And, you know, they're obviously going to be close to getting KO'd, but as long as they don't get KO'd, 2 minutes is plenty of time to be able to win the game. But in the current situation, 30 points, they need to get a move on, which means they might not be able, you know, they don't have, I guess, this is probably, like, these two weapons here, the Reef Slider cheese or getting a bubble in zone, like, these are the only two weapons that are really, I guess this can get a bubble as well, but Decaf can paint a lot better than the V-Roller. So, like, they don't have a lot of options to be able to get a strong retake in this situation. So, you know, we're not going to get our special, but because the enemy team's going to be in such a rush, we don't have to, like, run at them. Because if we run at them here because, oh, I'm not going to get my special, so I need to take a fight if we want to KO here, you know, if the roller drops on us, or if someone comes out of spawn and drops on us and we lose a fight on this right side, they get to take left stack for free, and then they can get their bubble in the zone, and then they can potentially retake. So even though we're not going to have our special, which feels a little bit bad, as long as we can deal with this Reef Slider cheese, these bubble weapons should not be able to get into the zone. So this should be a pretty routine kind of KO unless something goes catastrophic, which in X rank, things go catastrophic all the time. And yeah, you can see the entire team is playing the same way. We're watching the ledges, we're poking the ledges, and looking to punish these people. Exploiting the Stamper getting too aggressive, they should disengage to keep the zip free take. Yeah, for sure. You know, and sometimes you do gotta, like, if you're already in a bad spot, and this gets into more meta discussion about, you know, how the correct way to play X rank, for example. Some people use X rank as a way for them to, like, push their mechanics and go for aggressive plays. I mentioned with KuroKuro, there's a couple of times where they went for aggressive plays that I didn't necessarily align with their decision making. But X rank is a pretty, it's like recess. It's a you can do whatever you want. Like, it's kind of free time for you to be able to explore your own learnings and stuff. So some people, it allows them to focus on their pace of play and everything. But I totally agree with you. That risk wasn't worth taking from the Stamper side of things, especially when you're playing against someone like KuroKuro that has all of those options covered. But you got to test things out, even if it doesn't work. You have to get your bad data in order to have the data. Nice. So, again, common theme throughout all this fight is that we poke at them and we disengage. We poke a little bit, do some damage, and we disengage. We don't want to like take this fight. We did so much damage, we probably could swing right, play around this cover right here, and like clean this person up, but we don't need to do any of that. We can work with our team and we're chilling. Are you VOD reviewing? Just for VOD reviewing top level JP player? Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan for tonight. I need to like I mainly wanted to test because I'd like change a bunch of stuff for my stream setup and everything. So I just kind of wanted to test that. I have a soundboard that I'll use later. So I don't know. We have a.
He's on fire! He's on fire!
Yeah. Anyways, we have some fun soundboards in the future, but I just want to make sure everything works and everything. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. If it blew y'all's ears out, I apologize. But I tried to make it not too loud. Anyways, nice micro positioning. You see the roller at the very end. Notice that they were too close. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, again, we see that kiting back. We're taking these fights, you know, like if we sit on this ledge, like they have two weapons that can ledge camp us really, really hard. So as we move backwards, you know, we take this high ground because it increases the distance and it makes it harder for them to be able to like hit their shots. In most cases, we probably would go down to this Stamper here, but we're able to survive. You know, there's a lot of chaos happening right now. But again, you notice that like we're constantly backing up so we can take these isolated fights. Somewhere could be louder. Alright, good. I just didn't want to like I didn't want to jump scare anyone. So I left a little bit on the lower end, but yeah, maybe we'll later. But yeah, find that pick, and exactly like you said, we get to kite backwards and find this pick. Even if we go down, our teammates clean it up, and it should be pretty routine. So really good stuff. 1 and 2. Sometimes it's fun to keep track of like what rank they're at and everything. Oh, I went too far. Alright. So, don't really have to deal with too much range. They do have the enemy has an interesting kind of composition and everything. So, you know, I'm expecting us to probably play a lot more high ground because we don't have to worry about getting hit by a charger. Like, whenever you play against leader and charger, it really skews with your game plan, or just any kind of backline. But yeah. Yeah, that's a good point as well. Like the extra RNG. If we were playing another weapon, that's something with like Splash. Yeah, you can get away with a lot of jumps and everything because of the lack of the RNG. Yep. You'll see this a lot on this map specifically, but like because this elevator goes up and down and you need someone to manage that, unless you have like a sprinkler or something or a wall to like keep it open. A lot of times you'll notice some of these objects around the elevator, it's the same height as the elevator, but the grate isn't going to go down if no one's keeping it. You know, you don't have to maintain it by hitting the propeller. So, you know, tiny little adjustment. Some people might stay on the plat and crab, and then they like start lowering, and it limits their visibility, it limits their damage output, or not, it limits their potential damage, it definitely limits their range, and it just makes it overall harder to use your crab and get value. So just a tiny little adjustment to be able to stay on this high ground. Again, the more that we do those, I'll probably like right now I'm picking out things that I see, just to like, because these are all things that I think about, but I only hyper focus on certain things that I'm trying to learn selfishly. But for the purposes of kind of going through this exercise, because I know a lot of people talk about like wanting to VOD review or not knowing how to do VOD reviews, or are just very interested in doing their own VOD reviews of their own gameplay, or watching their favorite streamer, or watching high level player, or watching a random tournament that's happening. So I'm trying to feed y'all as many ideas as you can of like points to start getting curious. I'm trying to give topics that you can get curious about for you to continue to explore. Because I would say like in your own VOD reviews, I've probably pointed out like a dozen different areas that you could explore. I wouldn't be as broad. I would go a little bit deeper. It's like breadth versus depth. I would go deeper into a small handful of topics versus like pointing out a million different things. But if it's your first time, especially when you're looking at a newer player, it is good to observe like all these different details, because a lot of times I go into VOD reviews and I don't know what I'm looking for, but like as I start watching, there might be something that like, oh, I really disagree with that, so I need to explore that. Or, oh, this is really interesting. Again, with the footwork, sometimes it's like, oh my god, like their movement is amazing, and I just like I want to get better at that. So it's like whatever your body's telling you of like, yeah, I really want to work on my movement here, or I really want to work on my crab positioning, or I really want to work on my retakes, or when we have control of the map, our team struggles with KOing, and maybe we're not approaching our holds as best as we could. So it's important for you to figure out from your own end what you're comfortable learning, because there's no right or wrong answer. Those details, like all these different details and things that you can learn and improve on, they'll be there for you. That's the fun thing about playing a game over a long period of time. And this is one of the reasons why like I was talking a little bit with some of the yapping I did a couple days ago, but I want like this process to me is like super exciting. If I could like if for my life, if I could watch whatever competitive game I'm playing, if I could just like VOD review that game, and that was my entire life, like I could literally, like I said 20 hours to go over everything. I would be so happy if I only had to sleep 4 hours a day, if I could do 20 hours of this. I love VOD reviewing. I'm hoping I can provide some clarity for people so that maybe they can appreciate it as well. Anyways, small things that we're noting here. Have to be careful. We're really low. But you notice, like, because sometimes people will climb up and they immediately start moving forward. Sports analysis for soccer, that's super sick. I think one of the biggest, like, I wish I understood the strategic and brain part of sports when I was growing up. Like, I know like formations and stuff existed, but whenever I watched sports, I didn't really think about it in that term. Because I loved sports growing up, but I was like, I never like did proper analysis, and like I think I would have gone into like potential coaching of like sports, or just gotten more into the analytical side and have really appreciated that. If I had known that earlier on in my career. So that's really, really cool. The awesome thing is nowadays there's so many like great YouTubers that do that work for you. So at least I can appreciate that process, even though I can't dive into it. But oh my god, I love sports. I just love the spirit of competition. Oh man, I'm so happy for you. That sounds super, super sick. Anyways. Oh yeah. The one thing I wanted to note, so in this situation, we're playing on this ledge. We're really weak. We need to heal up. Enemy team has a slosher or a dread that outranges us. We need to drop off and heal. So we're always navigating. You'll notice, especially as shooter players that are very hypermobile, but this is good for every weapon in the game. Always play around your ledges. If you're gonna need to retreat, you play the back part of the ledge. If you're looking to advance on the enemy, you play the front part of the ledge. And sometimes you play the sides if you can drop off the side as well. be the full play.
一回前
Yep. Again, tiny details. When it comes to doing the propeller, while it's more ink efficient to shoot at the propeller, it's a lot faster to throw a burst bomb and just let the burst bomb rise it up. So, you know, if you don't have enough ink and you want to raise the propeller, you have to shoot at it. But right now we basically have a full ink tank going into this, so we can afford to throw a burst bomb at the ground, lift the propeller. It also paints our area, so we have more movement options. And we can make a decision. Do we want to move forward? Which ideally we'd like to. We can either move forward or we can drop back if we need to. I don't know why they made the multiplier for so good for propeller specifically. I think it's a cool mechanic, so I like that they did it. But yeah, it's shocking the difference.
でこれもう一周上がれるんだよね、前でヘイト買ったおかげで。
Yep. And then again, little
一回前で大気の
little decisions. So, lift propeller. We look for the aggressive play. We look for this aggressive play, but you know, we're again playing this ledge. We're always at this situation where we can make the decision. You know, we can always reevaluate this scenario. Before we were at full HP, we had so many options in front of us. Life was good. You know, a couple seconds later, they've hit us with a bunch of shots. We are at like 80 or 90% damage. We're about to get splatted. Yeah, we can't go for this play anymore. So we drop off the side. But if we didn't take any damage here, we're probably going to go for this play. Someone spam pinging your Discord? Well, that's not fun. Are they spamming slurs? Because that happened once, and that wasn't fun either. Oh. Ew. Alright, thank you. Thank you, I banned them. Well, if that keeps going, I might just not make a Discord at some point. It's a spam bot. I see. Yeah, that stuff's annoying. But either way. Anyways. Yeah, another thing when you're dropping off the ledge, this is another important mechanic. When you drop off the ledge, you can queue up a super jump. And that'll speed up. If you queue up the super jump while you're falling, it'll be faster when you land. And especially right now they have cooler. Like the second that they jump, they're flying backwards, which keeps you safer. Because you have less chance of taking damage. You know, if they jump back to base, that would make, you know, that'd be totally fine. But they're able to jump back to one of their teammates, so they're immediately back into mid. Way faster. I have to like... Yeah, maybe I need to like look... Is that a spam bot as well? Man, nah. That looks like a spam. I'm just gonna... If someone just joined my thing and isn't a spam bot, I just banned a random person because their name looked the same. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to like look at extra protection measures because it doesn't happen a lot, the spam stuff, but yeah, very fun. Very fun. Anyways, get back into mid, we reevaluate the situation. You know, kind of throughout that whole thing, now we're at about half of our special. So enemy team, we currently have a numbers advantage, so we can probably get a special before the enemy team like is able to set up and everything. So this is why they go backwards and they paint the sides of the map where there's still open paint so that they can just turbo farm their special. They can paint this and get back into mid before the enemy team spawns in and sets up. And if we use that 20 to 40 second, I probably should have something a little bit closer, but if we use this reference of like this many points that it takes for the enemy team to retake, if we like at 68, we're kind of at a point where like we're not going to KO with this fight, but you know, we have a Booyah Bomb. I'm going to get a crab. If we can force a fight and win this next fight, what'll end up happening is, you know, we're 2 cycles away. We're not 1 cycle where we win the fight and the game ends, but we're 2 cycles away from KOing. So, again, another thing to keep in mind. All right. I'm so scared. I'm so scared about Discord bot things now. All right. Anyways, we'll keep it going. You know, as they're painting, you have to reassess. You know, going into the painting, they were in a good spot. Immediately after, okay, now we're losing in numbers. We still have special advantage, so we might be able to hold. So the plan we went for is still not out of the question, but over the last 2 seconds that the enemy team got a Zuka out and got a pick, it changes the dynamic of this fight. So instead of aggressively trying to fight their specials with our specials, we have to wait for our teammates to come back that are splatted. So we're probably going to back up over here. You know, hopefully we can hold the zone. If not, it's not a huge deal. But hold the zone, wait out their Zuka, wait out the crab, and then, you know, we can use our own Booyah Bomb in our own crab. And if we can hold the zone while we wait out the enemy team special, we still have that 2 cycle KO potentially. You're getting a bot attack? You got a second one? Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Ugh. Alright, well. People are no fun. Thank you. Alright, we'll figure this out. Is there a way I can like a mod thing that you can do? I am not a Discord moderator. I can tell you that much. But isn't there like something you can do where like I might just have to add extra security measures where like people can't talk until Alright. For right now, I made it so they have to verify a phone in order to chat in the Discord. So hopefully that at least stops things for right this second. But yeah, I'll have to like actually, because my Discord's pretty chill. So yeah, I guess it's just 'tis the season. Could help, yeah. There's definitely things I can do. I just like I don't feel like doing it right now. I don't feel like doing it ever, but I'll get it done because yeah. Thank you. I appreciate y'all keeping things in check. So again, trying to hold zone, trying to wait out the specials, and then we get out our own crab. Fortunately, our team got a couple of picks, so you know we don't need the perfect crab right now. Before you know, we went on this grate on the right side in order to crab from high ground. But you see here that we're not crabbing from high ground, and a lot of this is because you know, like in this spot. My hypothesis is that they're shooting this propeller so that they can get up to this high ground and crab here. But unfortunately, they're in the enemy ink. They have no ink themselves. They're kind of in an awkward spot. But fortunately, they get bailed out from their teammates. They try to play it fast. So, you know, I'd rather just get the crab out now than, you know, waste a bunch of time and get perfect positioning, but potentially miss that window because that window is really important. Another one. Oh, goodness. What in the what? Yeah, I'm about to set this stuff up. SMH. Is there something I can do right now that can at least like cut it off? I reported the read. I don't know if that even does anything. I'd imagine it probably doesn't, but sorry, I didn't expect all of this. Block mention spam? Thought I did that. Block suspected spam content. Alright, hopefully this gets us through the duration of the stream. I'm sorry for anyone. Maybe I can, there's a bot? Yeah, for sure. I updated some of my spam detector thingies in the server itself, but I don't know. Fun times. But yeah, you have good ideas to get this stuff fixed later. I just want to like prevent people from like doing it just for the night, because getting spam pinged is really annoying on Discord, so having a bot do it over and over is tough. Yeah, welcome in Cyan, and welcome in Nigel. Welcome in. Make me mod so I can ban them? Oh yeah. Yeah, I can make you a mod. Yeah, I can get some of the real ones as mods. You're right. Don't worry about it too much. I don't have money to pay y'all, so don't worry about it too much, but y'all can have mod, and I can, you know, if anything happens, I can at least have some support. Sorry, 1 second. Alright. Anyways. But I don't, yeah, that's why I'm in Do Not Disturb. Yeah, I know that there's options, I just never had to look into it because I never had to worry about it. But I just feel really bad if people have to deal with like the spam pings. Anyways, so where are we at with this game? Again, burst bomb on the propeller. It's not ink efficient, but it's very time efficient. And time is very important in a lot of these spots. Something to note here. So as we're moving forward in these spots, so I guess so. There's so much to know here. I need more time. So when they open up their map, if you see for a quick second, I think I can go back frame by frame. There's a person that shows up, and like if you get good at opening up your minimap, you'll see these things. But this person appears, and like you can notice it. Like you see, like they appear. I guess because they get close to this beacon, or maybe they take damage. Probably beacon. But you know, constantly opening maps when you have this downtime is important because sometimes you get this information. But it also just kind of lets you like see the current paint situation, where your teammates are. Like opening up your map, if you can do it very quickly in a time efficient manner, it can be one of your most important resources, especially in solo queue where it's hard, like you don't have teammates to VC with, so you're kind of on your own from that side of things. The other thing that is important to note here, partially we play on the right side here because, yeah, KuroKuro. Yeah, that's the one thing. When you open and close your map, it's important for you. Every time I see a Discord notification, I have to like go away, spam bots. Maybe that'll do it. We asked them nicely. Thank you. But if you know what you're looking for, you can open up your map and get that info and process it in a fraction of a second. Which is something you'll see with high level players, where like you'll see their map like flip on and off, and like if you don't, like if you're not the one pressing the button, it's really hard like it can be very disorienting when you're watching other players, because if you're not thinking about opening up your map, playing 420 mode at the same time as SWAT 3. Yeah, it's basically Five Nights at Freddy's. So real. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good skill. I made a script a long time ago about map checking, but it's something I want to revisit because I think I've learned a lot more. Because I made that when I was on the treadmill like many years ago, back at a previous apartment. So I do want to go back to it because I think map checking is something that's underexplored for the general Splatoon audience. But there's so many other things that I would rather cover that needs to be covered. But it is something that I just like. I don't think it's a hard thing to talk through, and it's very helpful, but there's a lot of added complexity. But I want to start that conversation by like, there's a couple of very common map checks that can get you into developing habits of flipping open the map and closing the map very, very, very quickly. Usually it's when you're checking for people like flanking. So like on a lot of maps, like if you think about Inkblot, a lot of people drop out of their spawn on the far right side, and that's like a very common flank route, or the very left side of Museum. There's that big drop that's like a one-way drop. If you paint that area, then you can flip open your map really quickly and just see if the enemy team paints over it. If you get the paint down first, you can just very quickly like have your eyes positioned wherever that is. I don't have that map open, but if you were looking for like this flank over here, your eyes, when you're playing the game before you flip your map open, your eyes are looking at this area. And it's a skill to develop, where your eyes need to be when you open up the map to get that information as fast as you can. But if you were looking for this information, I could flip open the map in like a quarter of a second, flip it open, turn it off, and like get that information. Is there someone that's dropping over this area? Do I need to worry about focusing my attention there? And it allows you to cover multiple different areas in those situations where you can't look at everything visually by taking high ground, like that one kind of freeze frame we did earlier on a Mako Mart on the right stack, where you could see all of the plat. Technically, you couldn't see that far right side, but that's a lot less common. But on some of the other maps, those drops are a lot more common, and something you want to keep an eye on. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to mention, so if we look at the paint situation here, there's a lot of enemy paint here, and there's like our team paint or no paint in this area. So one concept that I kind of want to introduce here, and when we look at the weapons that we're playing against, Luna Blaster, very scary when sharking, Dread, maybe a little bit, V-Shot, scary. And like in the last game when we saw Decav, Stamper, Rollers, like all those are super, super scary when sharking. And with this current paint pattern that's in front of us, people could be sharking direct, and usually they're going to be like right here in front. And like them sharking right here is very, very scary. And especially when we want the propeller to be up so that we have the high ground. But by having the propeller up and the stage is lifted, or like this platform is lifted right here, when that's lifted, people have the opportunity to shark underneath us and we can't see it. So the interesting thing to note here is because enemy team has this paint in this area, and we have paint in this little area, KuroKuro's kind of staging their retake by starting over here and swinging this way, because that way you can check for sharks in a much safer manner. You can play on the right grate, like you can play on this grate, or you can even draw, like they had a teammate that dropped over here, and you can play this angle without having to deal with this sharker being directly underneath you. It's a risk because you're squeezing your team in this little tiny, and I wouldn't say all four of your teammates should be pushing this way, but like, that kind of 1-2 combination that you have with your teammate that they're working with, that's why specifically they're looking to play this alley right here instead of, a lot of times if you don't have to worry about the sharks underneath the ledge, you'll play like the front part of this corner because you have more range to like get paint and bombs, and you have better visibility. And, when you're in the middle of the map, you can paint in all directions a lot easier. But when there's people potentially sharking in this area, sometimes you have to go for these kinds of angles, and sometimes you might even have to crab all the way up here. It's not that dire here because the enemy team doesn't have control of our platform, so we can still play on our platform with the propeller and everything. But that's just like an interesting detail, because we saw this a bit on the Mako game, where generally when they retake, they play on the far right side or the far left side, so that we're not, because if we retake right here and there's a sea of enemy paint around us, we can't reasonably like sweep this whole area, because we have to like look in all of these different directions, which is very, very, very difficult. Whereas if you play from this angle right here, all you have to worry about is this here, and then, maybe someone pushes your far left side. So you have to keep that in mind. But like, this whole area that you're turning your back to, there's no paint, there's no enemy. We don't have to worry about that. So this area in black is a lot safer and less of a chance of us getting caught off guard than playing in this kind of magenta area where there's a million different angles that we can potentially get approached from. So we trade off, not having as much free space and not being in the middle of the map. We're kind of squeezing ourselves through a smaller choke point, but it's a lot safer when it comes to actually like taking the fights and everything. So that's why, like, when they're going for this play, that's why that person drops out on the right. And that's why as a team, they're kind of playing this right side so that they can just, like, they know that they have the Luna right here. They know how to, they know that information, so they can space out around the Luna specifically. But they don't have to worry about any other potential sharks or, any other scary things. You also have this giant pillar in the way that you can use as protection. And you can always rotate, like playing on this grate, you can always rotate back onto the propeller if the scenario changes, and you can go back to your comfortable spot on the very front part of the propeller, like looking into mid, where you can like paint zone very easily. Because you'd rather be over here painting zone, but when there's people in front of your ledge, you have to make a little bit of sacrifice. Which, again, given the situation, we have plenty of time. But if we lose this fight, we might be in jeopardy of losing lead and potentially getting KO'd. But right now, we have plenty of time. So I'd rather, in this spot, from KuroKuro's perspective, they'd rather take the time, even if the enemy team gets to 50, 40, even 30, as long as they retake, they'll apply a good penalty. And for the most part, like, they'd rather stop them at 50 versus 30. But as long as you're holding the lead, like, you're kind of chilling. You're kind of chilling. And so they're able to get crab out, clean up some of those. You notice in this spot, because I see people kind of make this mistake a lot with their crabs. So, first we're cleaning up the fights. But you'll notice right here, some people will hold down the turret mode. They'll hold down the right trigger, or ZR on the Switch controller, and like be in the Hydra Fire mode. And in this spot, there's a giant sea of enemy paint. Like, we don't have any more targets. We got 2 picks, and there's a sea of enemy paint where people could be sharking, and you could be, there's danger potentially lurking everywhere, not just for you, but for your other teammates. And when you look at the rest of your team, Dapples can paint, but it's splatted. But like, S-Blaster doesn't want to paint for itself. Range Blaster really can't paint for itself. So the best thing you can do, if there isn't another target you can fire at, the best thing you can do here is focus on getting big chunks of paint switched over with your expo shots. The nice thing in this spot, and in a lot of spots when you're retaking with your crab, is that you can expo shot here and here, and then in this spot, since the right side's painted, that'll retake the zone for you. But even if you take zone out of the equation, because this could be a Clan Blitz match, this could be a Rainmaker match, this could be TC, where like you're not painting the zone, you would still want to hit these big areas, focus the center area, but also, if there's a threat of a shark, you'd want to hit these areas, but hit these big pockets of enemy paint with your expo shots, and that'll be infinitely better than having your Hydra fire down, looking for someone to randomly pop up and get a pick. So that's one use of the expo shot that, they don't have to think about. That's just like, they just know that they need to do that. But I see a lot of people that, like, in this kind of situation, when I've done VOD reviews of people, they've just held down the Hydra mode. And yes, you can paint a little bit. And yes, if there is a target, you'll be able to splat them very quickly. But it's kind of the risk reward. And I'd rather just get more paint down. And, you still do significant chip. It's like 30, 40 damage a chip with the expo shot. So, I mean, you can do 90, but realistically, you're probably not hitting someone for 90 when there's this much paint on the map, unless you have a hunch of where they're at. So, flipping map open saves my life as Stringer, helps me get the over ledge blind spot shots. Yeah. Some weapons are, like, when I played Dreadringer and, like, Slosher, and obviously backlines, it's, a weapon like bow for sure. It's a lot more... you can get a lot more, like, aggressive value or, like, fine picks because those weapons can slosh over ledges a lot easier than something like Splash. But yeah, you know the drill. But yeah, that's why they go for these expo shots. Because especially when you have teammates with you, even if you don't clean someone up, if you expo shot someone and there's paint all around them, from the enemy team's perspective, like, your team can come in and clean that up. Yeah. Again, I just want to note, like, because a lot of time they've been playing on the escalator for a lot of this game, or the propeller, elevator, whatever you want to call it. They usually have been playing the center of the map, but you see as they move toward mid, they're still playing, like, they're using high ground right now. They couldn't be on high ground if they were playing against a charger or a backline, but, like, against this comp, they can kind of play high ground. But you'll notice that they're playing around this area. And being here allows you to drop, like, you can cut off so many angles. If you want to go aggressive, you can go this way. You probably don't drop off right too many spots unless you're chasing after a pick. But, like, you can go backwards this way, or if the platform is to your left, you can drop off to the left side. And you have so many options. You want to keep your options open. And you'll see kind of that happen. The other thing, like, when you, like, jump off of a ledge, you have a little bit of time to paint and everything, but, like, let's say that someone popped up and tried to fight you. As you're painting, maybe getting a bomb out, like, you're slowly getting back underneath cover. So sometimes you don't want to go for these jumps, but especially with Splash, sometimes you will go for them just to, like, there'll be moments, like, I think there was a moment in the Mako Mark game where they fought a Stamper and they kind of jumped, and it's like, in this little timing window while I'm, like, at the, when I jump off and I'm at the top of my arc and I'm above this line here, I can shoot them, I can shoot them, I can shoot them. So you give this window of, like, you have this window to be aggro with the enemy team, but the second that you get past this line, now you're, like, safe or behind cover. So it's kind of like it gives you this opportunity, and, like, the more you want to be aggressive, the longer you'll hold your jump, versus, like, if you want to go for something quick, but you're kind of scared about being in the air that long, maybe you do a little tiny bunny hop instead. So you're in the air for less time, but you still have that little opportunity. Yo, what's up, Garrett? That's my question. I'm doing well. I'm doing real well. There was Discord spam bots that I've never had to deal with. That's annoying, but I gotta work on that. But otherwise, life's pretty good. I hope you're doing well as well. I know you have to have some I'll handle this. I just imagine you, Garrett, like cracking your knuckles right now. Give me a minute. I don't think you wear glasses. Maybe you do, but, like, you're kind of, like, pushing your glasses up and everything. Let me take care of this. Thank you. It stopped, so I think we're okay. But it's funny. Yeah. And again, like, they just like know these ranges. Like when we're using our crab in this spot, we know, okay, if we're in this corner, we can hit like the front part of this platform. So if anyone's in the same spot that I am, I can fight them with the crab currently. When they kind of back up, we start moving forward. Again, we have people in front of us, so we can be aggressive. Yeah, rapid keyword type noises. Yes. But you'll notice, like, and again, this is just like muscle memory for people that are really good and have put in the time and the reps, is that KuroKuro knows naturally how far forward they have to go to be able to get an expo shot over this block here. So, you know, that's just something that like you'll, if you play crab, you probably like, these are probably things that like you're already good at, but
Yeah.
and then they can clean it up with their burst bombs. I actually don't know why they jump here. I might have to run that one back, because I don't know. I don't have time to run it back, but that right there, that might be something. Yo, what's up, Vampire? It has been a while. Are you back? The community needs you. Not the hero we deserve, but the hero we need right now. Maybe, I don't know. Well, hey. I'm excited. I just missed the machine days. Back when machine was the meta. Probably could have dodged that a little bit better, but they're chilling. Oh no, they're not chilling. So yeah, this kind of situation. So this is a spot right here. Like when they jump in, they know that they're down a person. So this is like what I consider like the X rank greed. Because what should happen in this situation is that this person, like, we're really close to KO, and we would love to paint the zone and hold the zone for another 5 seconds, and then the game just ends. But if you're actually playing probability, and sometimes it is worth going for the risk, but like in this kind of situation, we don't have any kind of positioning to be able to sustain the zone to more or less cap it for 5 seconds. So this is a spot where you kind of just have to lick your wounds and say, hey, they're going to take zone, but we don't have to give up. You know, we can hold our elevator, like lift it up, and we can probably play around the grate that's above us. We're close to crab. Like, give up the zone now, and while they're doing that, we paint for our crab, and then once our team is back in full force, then we can crab them and take back control of mid. And what ends up happening here is that we get really greedy to go for the KO, which, again, very understandable in X rank. Like, a lot of people are trying to, like, you know, for these kinds of grinders, like, they're trying to manage, like, again, this is like a meta analysis of like playing X rank, but they're obviously trying to maximize their win rate, but they're also trying to maximize like each match's playing time. Because if they get to, like, if they KO faster, they can like climb and get back to their peak a lot faster. So like this is like outside of your like I wouldn't consider this generally, because it's like not good practice. And especially if you're playing in a tournament, you don't care how long any game takes. You're really just trying to focus on winning. So the correct play in terms of just pure probability of winning is to just give up zone, use your crab for retake, and just hold control of this choke point here and make sure that they don't swarm your team when they're spawning in. But there's also, because sometimes this happens in card games as well, which is really interesting, where like some people will play aggro decks and they're willing to make very, very, very risky plays because they're just trying to churn through games. Because, you know, when you're playing at this level of XP, you know, y'all have seen the clips of Melon and Chocopero where like they win a game and they get like or they win a set of X rank and they get like plus 15, and they do that like dozens of times, and then they lose one set. They go like 2-3 in one set, and it's minus like 200 points, which is insane. School and time to play. My friends are not playing anymore. That's tough. Yeah, playing this game without friends is tough. You have to like find a whole new group. But I'm sure anyone would be glad to have you. But it definitely dampers the hype of playing. I can definitely understand that. Is it maybe because retaking is harder in X than with comms, so the risk? I mean, it could be. Again, this is one of those spots where like I'm just coming up with the hypothesis, but you'll see this a lot. I think they're just being like greedy. Like ultimately it's just greed, but the reason why they're greedy is because they're trying to maximize their time. Because, you know, in most cases, they're not gonna, like, even if their team fully wipes out here, they're not gonna lose the game. They can, you know, that is a risk. But in most cases, they're not gonna lose the game. And even if like 1 out of like, you know, 4 times or 1 out of 3 times, you know, KuroKuro, as strong as they are mechanically, if they find 2 picks and they're able to hold and win this game, that saves them, you know, another 2 minutes of playing this game potentially. So it's one of those things that like, you know, saving this 2 minutes purely from like a tournament standpoint would mean nothing, but saving 2 minutes of like your precious time when you're only playing, you know, 1 or 2 zones rotations a day, those 2 minutes can make or break, you know, the longer climb. So again, this is more like meta analysis. This is more like, I don't know. No one should ever be thinking about this, but as someone that's done a little bit of climbing in card games, like this is definitely something that is considered very often. What's up? Welcome in, Eclipse. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well, my friend. So anyways, we get punished by being greedy. Again, I would be very shocked if we lost this game, but it happens. Teammate finds a pick. Yeah, we're getting a little antsy here. Oh, I love this play. Okay. This is so sick. Alright. Couple things really quick. After this game, we'll probably call it a stream because it's getting late. And like, again, it would take me, we're 26 minutes. If I move my head. We're 26 minutes out of 2 hours of footage. Take care, Yoshi. Take care. I would love to do this for so many hours, but that's a lot of yap time, and I have to sleep at some point. So we'll call it after this game. But this is such a cool play. It's something that I would not think to do. So in this situation, they're up 3v2. So they have numbers. So we can kind of afford to play a little bit aggressive. I think we basically have a full ink tank. So the important thing about a weapon like Splash that has Burst Bomb as its sub, when you have a large ink tank, like when your ink tank is mostly full, you can afford to throw a couple of Burst Bombs at your feet that drastically speeds up your mobility and allows you to like move forward. Watching this game gives me a headache, but it's so fun. I feel that. So we can be a little bit more aggressive than maybe other shooters because we can get a decent amount of paint out and still have good mobility and still be able to fight if we need to because of the flexibility of something like the Splash's kit with its weapon and Burst Bomb specifically. But yeah, the cool thing to know here, so these plays happen. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they even throw a dart here. So this dart gets thrown, so we know that right here, when it comes to dart, the only weapon is like this Forge, or not Forge, this is the V Pro. So we know where Pro is, and what ends up happening is like Pro's the last one alive. At this point, Pro's alive. They were just right here. We know that they like went over here somewhere. So we have a couple of options. We could look to take this fight. Or there's a lot of different ways we can look to approach this fight. Right now, we're kind of out in the open, so some people might be tempted to just start painting the zone at this point, but we're out in the open. So like, if the pro is sitting right here, we're just a sitting duck if we try to paint the zone now. We could move up to this area and look to paint, and that's probably what I would likely be doing. I'd probably get behind the zone and like paint over myself, get some burst bombs, and like use my burst bombs to try to sweep and find this pro. But what KuroKuro does here is very simple and elegant, but is genius, because I would not have thought about this. So in this spot right here, they push up to the elevator because it's a very high likelihood that this pro just wrap back into zone. And they're trying to just like, they could be going this way. There is a non-zero chance that that person's over here. But realistically, if I was that pro in the situation, I'm probably using this as cover and looking to take this 1v1. Or I'm looking to take a 1v1 on the other side of the map, and we use this block in mid to cut off angles. Or maybe they back up all the way. But if they back up all the way, they're going to have to jump back. They have to go against the status quo, so they might be more prone to want to go for an aggressive play and shark here until they find someone. Like, my guess is that the pro is looking to shark, wait for someone, which is, we're really the only good painting weapon on our team, but waiting for the blaster to poke out, one of the blasters, or waiting for the splash to poke out, and just punish them for trying to paint the zone, and then maybe they can hold. That's one option. So what KuroKuro does here is they swim onto this elevator, and yeah, you can see the pro pops up right here because they were kind of looking for this. And again, what's the golden rule of Splatoon? If you play fast enough, you get away. Like, the faster you play, the more things that you get away with. So we quickly, like, no hesitation, we get onto the elevator, and, this person notices, oh, that person's getting behind me, I can potentially find this pick. But we get onto the elevator, and like in an action movie or something, we shoot the propeller up, we lift ourselves up high and get to safety at the last second. So what ends up happening in this spot, now that we have high ground, now we can sit back here. We don't have to worry about a weapon like pro ledge camping us. And now we can just safely like paint the zone from behind them. So not only do we get to paint the zone, we get to do it from high ground and from a safe angle. Which, assuming that our teammates clean up the pro, we can hop onto this grate and potentially look for a crab play. Like, there's so many good options aggressively to be able to do on this spot, as well as we're safe in this immediate sequence in front of us against the V-Pro. And if the V-Pro did want to climb this wall and challenge us, we have two blasters in mid that are pushing through mid as well. So now we've sandwiched this pro in mid, so they have to look behind them and they have to look in front of them. And putting the enemy team in this kind of position feels miserable. So this is such like I would have just stayed in mid and painted zone. This is such a cool like idea. These are the things, this is the level of creativity. And for some people, this might be an obvious play. For me, this is not. Like, I would never go for this play. And, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, does it amount to too much? Not really. But, like, this level of creativity is just, like, so sick. This is the part of the game that I just, like, want people to appreciate. I adore this level of creativity. It would go missed by a lot of people, but this is such a cool play. That person gets trapped, we get the free pick. There's a million different ways to win that fight, but there's so many situations where thinking about that idea, like now I'm thinking about that idea of pushing past and getting onto the elevator before taking that fight, which is something that I would not, like, it's not intuitive to me. So now that I've injected that idea, the next time that I have a zones rotation where I'm playing on this map, I'm so excited to hope for a situation to try this out. And that's one of the cool things about VOD reviewing is like, especially other people, when they come up with these little creative plays, it really like sparks excitement. At least for me, it sparks excitement to like want to get back into the game. And it's just so sick. It's so sick. It's very inconsequential in this match, but it's so sick. Anyways, we have crab. Again, I mentioned, you know, we're crabbing in mid, so like we crab on high ground here. We could crab up here as well, but at least over, if we crab over on this side, we're isolating, you know, if we crab in middle, we have to worry about 3 different angles versus if we crab over here, everyone is within this area here. Like any potential spot that they retake is going to be directly in front of us. I think fireworks are going off because my pop is shooketh. So yeah, I'm gonna walk them and head to sleep in a second. But let's finish through this game. Get this crab again. The extra height, like crabbing on the ground over here or crabbing over on this platform over here on low ground, we get like we could still hit the same shots, but we can, you know, we now have the option to use our turret mode and find picks, and we also get really good visibility of everyone on the map. Like we would not be able to see these people on top of the platform if we were playing down here. So again, visibility, so important. High level players, they get their visibility when they need it. Yep, and again, because they play on the far side of the map, they're able to dodge the Zuka. From someone that, you know, if the Zuka was on top of the platform, if the Zuka was on top of the platform, or if the Zuka came out on the right side, we wouldn't be able to dodge it, or we could dodge it. We'd just have to drop backwards instead of more to the right side. But yeah, really sick. Probably look for a shark opportunity. Oh, we got back up now. Yeah, great escape. If I'm KuroKuro right now, I'm probably thinking like, you know, do I want to paint for a crab? Do I want to focus zone? Do I want to look for a fight? We have a lot of flexibility, and again, we end up on our platform because we're in our like comfort zone. When you're watching players play, you want to keep track of like where their comfort zones and where they're comfy playing, like with the right part of zone in Mako zones. In attacking the right stack from that area is something that KuroKuro likes to do. And then on this map, obviously playing that platform is really good. High ground with crab, very strong. Tried to queue up the jump, unfortunately. You know, maybe could have jumped back because they were really low, so they probably, to increase their chances of surviving there, they probably should have like just jumped back to base instead of trying to find the right teammate to jump to, or to pick a beacon to jump to, because that takes extra time. But they're probably going to get splatted regardless in that situation, if I'm being completely honest. Yep, thing I mentioned before. So right now, this is all really interesting. So, you know, there is a chance that people could be sharking under this ledge, but the fact that our teammates are in front of us and they haven't been sharked on, there's a really good chance that like someone's not on this left side. We do see this person here, but because our teammates are able to survive, which again, someone could be sharking like forever down here. Maybe we could pick it up from one of the beacons. I don't know. But either way, that is potentially a threat, but we have enough context clues that like it's pretty unlikely. So because we have our teammates in front of us, because I mentioned before that we wanted to play that far right side, and we squeeze through that far right side because, you know, there's a sea of blue around us and there's potential sharks all over. But right here, because we have our teammates in front of us, this gives us an opportunity to start going from back to front and slowly sweeping our way forward. You know, why is this important? Because we need to paint for our special as well. And if we can paint this area safely, like there's an inherent risk that someone's sharking in this area, and if there was someone sharking underneath us, like we're cooked right now. But we have enough context clues to be able to make, again, this is all probability. You could be in this situation 100 times and you might get that 5 out of 100 times where someone's there and you get punished. And that shouldn't necessarily deter you from ever going for this play again, because this play is really smart. Because if we try to squeeze all the way through the right side because that's the only safe option that we have, then you're very predictable. Your entire team's coming through like 1, maybe 2 choke points, and the enemy team is going to cook you for that. But, you know, we have 1 teammate on the right, 2 teammates in front. If we can safely start sweeping this, and because we have 2 teammates in front of us, that gives us enough context clues to have a decent chance of not getting splatted here. Being able to paint this and sweep this area allows us to turbo farm our crab. And when it comes to our actual retake, we get to retake from 3 different angles, which makes it very high likelihood that we don't get caught out and run into issues. But this right here is like the most dangerous part of all of it. Unfortunately, our teammates go down. So because our teammates went down, now we're kind of stuck here. And if we take this fight for too long, we're at risk of getting flooded by the enemy team. So this is very scary. And that play before that I mentioned that, hey, we might lose, like we shouldn't lose the game here. Now it's looking a little bit dicey. But this is a pretty safe crab. Because we cleared out this right side and got a pick, like we don't have to worry. Well, there still is a chance someone's directly underneath us, but we have a dapples with us, so this is kind of the best play that's available to us now. So at least from this crab, we can maybe find a pick in front of us. If not, like I said before, we get our expo shots around zone, and we keep it contested. We might be able to flip it, probably not, because Dread should be able to outpaint a crab with 0 issues if they're positioned in a safe spot. So I'm probably not, like, we're probably going to contest the zone, but we're probably not going to be able to flip the zone here. But contesting the zone stops this stopwatch, this 20 to 40 seconds. It's buying us more time for our team to get back and looking for a full retake with our team. So this is a very, very risky situation. Very dicey again. We get flooded by the enemy team. Great job here. So we have to stay in crab mode here because we're getting chipped out. If we get out of crab mode, we like, yeah, if we get out of crab mode here, or like if we, there's 2 things. If we go out of crab mode, we're gonna get shredded, so we have to like reposition all together. So that's why we like wrap around this grate. The other thing that some people might want to do, because we do bump this person once, we could keep trying to bump this person and use the bumping with the crab to get this pick. The problem with that is that we've already taken so much crab damage. And again, this is more of a feel thing, because I don't think there's like a way to visually see how much health you have left on your crab before it gets shredded. But I'm almost certain that these things are going to shred our crab if we kept trying to bump into that person, because it takes a long time to play bumper cars and splat them. So we have to kind of, you know, just make it out alive and then look for another play. I don't know why this... I think it's a pro. I don't know why the pro, like, forgot about us. Like, right here, I don't know why the pro... Maybe they just assumed their teammate would clean it up. But that was a pretty big blunder from their part. But we do the best we can in this situation from KuroKuro's perspective. We cut off the angle from this person. They can't hit us. They have to, like, wrap around this way. Hey, what's up, Pep? And during that time, we get to, like, play Ring Around the Rosie with them and find an isolated fight with the pro. Which, I don't know why the pro stopped looking at us. But, you know, we find this very easy pick. The other thing to mention here, which I mentioned before with like burst bombs and when you have a full ink tank. So coming out of your crab, you have a full ink tank. That's just like after you use any special, when you're done with a special, you have a full ink tank. Full ink tank when you're fighting, what does that mean? It means that we have the ability to throw definitely one, maybe 2 burst bombs throughout a fight and still be able to like take the fight cleanly. So the important thing here, we get this burst bomb down. A lot of times this will do damage. Even if it doesn't do damage, we get to use this puddle to give us movement. So we kind of drop in on the edge of this and then we paint forward so we have more paint around us. But like if we just drop down or if we were just fighting on the grate, eventually that Luna that's wrapping around is going to find us. So we do a really great job of maximizing our movement to keep our distance from the Luna as best as we can. It's still a very dangerous situation. We also get to catch this person off guard and drop down from behind them, which I'm shocked that it happened, but it's solo queue, it happens. But again, we get the burst bomb down on the plat, and now if we need to keep taking this fight, we can go behind this cover, we can play around this propeller, we can back up all the way if we need to. We have so many movement options in this scenario. But we find this pick, which is really huge because we're on the verge of potentially getting KO'd, which is very, very scary. You notice after we get this pick, we shimmy our way to the left side. Why do we shimmy to the left side? Because we know that Luna's still on the right side. So is it dangerous to drop off in this kind of spot? Yes. But your team is also coming from the right side, so us pushing to the left gives us another angle of attack. So, you know, this person can't watch us and watch this other area. And even if there's someone sharking over here and we get picked, because we have a numbers advantage, even if we go down, that gives our teammates a numbers advantage on like this fight, for example. So we're like speeding up this fight because we have numbers and we just need to retake the zone. But we're able to stay alive. This is very dicey. Oh no. Oh. Alright, so couple of really interesting concepts here. And this is really hard. This is like discipline. In this spot, so many people would be tempted, myself included, to climb up this wall or push out this way and like try to hold the lead here. It feels really bad to lose lead and still have a pretty big penalty. But this level of discipline is so important. And like there's a chance that our team still holds lead, but we have 7 seconds. Like right now, it's not like we need to hold lead. We need to just like not get KO'd. So we have a little bit more time. So we use that time to go for this flank. This timing is very dicey. I'm very uncomfortable with this timing, but it does end up working out. But like if you look at the flank, you know, obviously if we don't have enough time, the game just ends and it almost does end. But like look at this angle of fighting. If we do have enough time, back turn to us, free jump pick. Like this is such an insane spot to be in if the game continues. So a little bit, again, we're weighing our probability in these spots. There's a bit of a scary situation, but fortunately, you know, we do lose lead, but it does work out for us. We get the wipe. We have full control. What do we do in these spots? 24 seconds left. You know, 40 seconds. So like this game's going to go into overtime or we lose. 45 seconds, like we need to score 45 points. Again, we use that frame of reference, 20 to 40 points that it takes for the enemy team to fully set up after getting wiped. Obviously, we have a few more points of free time because they're still wiped out. But because of that framing, the enemy team has plenty of time to retake here. So when the enemy team has plenty of time to retake, what do we do in this situation? We have to push the line forward. We have to move into their base and play a lot more aggressive. Like at other points in the match, I mean, if we wipe them out, we're going to push up anyways. But like if we win fights in mid, sometimes we still hold around mid because it's like we're not in this dire situation where like the enemy team is not like for us to win, the enemy team cannot recapture the zone at any point. That's just how the math works out at this time. So here we have to have this concept of pushing the line, which I've talked about before. Melon talked about it in their King's Cup game, Mincemeat Zones. But like push the line, basically this means like the line is like our area of control. So right now the line of control that we have is basically like kind of like where we're at. And right now it's like in the front of the zone. But as we move forward as a team, this line keeps moving forward with us. And the question we have to ask to ourselves here is how far what is like the red line that we need to get to in order for the enemy team to not be able to recapture the zone? You know, because if we're sitting in their spawn, this is an extreme example, but if we were sitting directly in their spawn, they can't get to the zone because we're in their spawn. Obviously, we wouldn't have the greatest fights because, you know, but, you know, there's a certain threshold where, like, if we move up far enough, they can't Zuka into the zone. They can't crab and hit the zone. You know, Wavebreaker, Zipcaster, they're going to have harder times finding value. So this concept of pushing the line means that we need to move and take as much space forward as we can. We still, you know, the enemy team's still going to get their specials, so we need to be able to play around Zuka. We need to play around Crab. We have our own Crab to work with. We might have one of our teammates' specials potentially. But main thing here, while the enemy team is down, we hold forward and we take as much space as absolutely possible. Get rid of Beacon. Yeah, you can see here, and this is the thing with wiping out, is like in your head, you have to have a good idea of like how far forward can I actually go? Because this is a decision point right here. If there's a world, like let's say we just wipe them out right here, instead of wiping them out in mid, if we won the fight on their plat and we wipe them out right here and the enemy team just all got wiped, then KuroKuro could climb up into their spawn, go all the way over here, and probably crab on top of this little block here, or maybe even farther back. But we get to crab in their spawn, which pushes the line up to like a ton. I mean, honestly, it's probably even farther. Like the line is like, it's like in their base. They're stuck in their spawn. So this would almost assure us victory if we could get up here and we already have our crab and we pop crab when the enemy team comes back in. We have teammates to reinforce us. We have coolers, like everything's in our favor. But we don't have enough time. Even though we went fast, we don't have enough time. You know, if we run up this way, we have to take a fight against Blaster. Do we want to fight against a Luna in close range? Probably not. We have a crab. So unfortunately, we get denied that opportunity, but it's good that we go for it. It's good that we keep that in our mind because that would end the game on the spot, basically. Assuming your team plays it correctly. So now we're thinking, okay, well now, you know, I need to set up on high ground for our crab. So we're going to go back to our trusty, handy dandy, great, looking to set up on great. You know, there might be other spots that we move into, but let's see what KuroKuro does. Yep. Again, I showed this in Mako. Look at this visibility. Look at this visibility. Absolutely insane. We see this person coming out of spawn. We see this person on the other side. As, you know, there's a blind spot because there's this giant pole in front of us. But as we continue to move left, we'll be able to, like, see all of this. But any potential, like, holding the spot so incredibly important. Because if we stayed pushed up, we could have a more aggressive crab in their spawn. But this V-shot would potentially drop into the mid and into zone that we'd have to go back for, or maybe they just cap behind us. We get C9'd and feel bad. So this position is just like, is so sick. And you'll notice good players will find these positions where they get full visibility of any potential drop points of the enemy. These spots, this is also a video I should make. This is such a key spot. So we're just sitting here, like we have that visibility. No, we're assuming no one on our team is watching this flank. So we need to hold on to it. And at any given moment, we can crab, hit this area, hit up here. You know, if they pop Zuka or something, we have this giant pole as cover. This is a really good spot for so many reasons. It's a little bit farther back than, you know, we wanted to initially go for when pushing the line. But, you know, we went to try to push forward, try to push into their spawn. Didn't have enough time. We got to go for the backup strat. So we get the crab out early, you know. We're kind of predicting them to dropping into us, but there's not a ton of time left. So like the enemy team kind of have to go soon. And like 20 points, like 1 point, I forgot the exact conversion. I think it's like 1 second. I think it's 1 second. Just there, check the wiki. Don't, I'm trying to remember, but like 1 second is roughly equivalent to like 1.667 points. So what that means, the reason why that's important is that our crab doesn't last 19 seconds. which is like how much time we need to end the game. But I don't feel like doing math. But realistically, it's not 19 seconds that we have to hold. It's closer to like 11 or 12 seconds, which I think Crab is like 8 or 9 seconds. So if we can hold them off their ledges for those 8 to 9 seconds, you know, they're not going to be able to retake the zone in the 3 seconds they have left to prevent us from KOing. So this timing with their Crab is very, very, very deliberate. Very deliberate. Again, you can math it out, but this is the important reason why like playing X rank is so important and just getting in reps is so important. Is because if you crab, like sometimes people will crab early. So if you crabbed and it was like 5 plus, like again, we'll go extreme example. If it was 5 plus 30 and you crabbed then, the enemy team can just wait out your crab. They build their specials while you get your crab out. They stand behind cover. They don't have to take the space because you've given them time after your crab to retake the zone. But this is like basically perfect timing, I would assume, to be like crab's going to end and basically the enemy team has no way of being able to go in. Because you want to get your crab out as soon as you can, but you don't want to get it out too soon to where the enemy team has time to retake once your crab is over.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly like I said. Crab ended. I don't know if it got shredded or if it was the full time duration, but it ended with about 2 seconds left, 2 or 3 seconds left. Which, you know, we got our picks, so the enemy team doesn't have. Did we just throw? Team? Wait, did we just lose a game? What? Okay, it's just Dread left. We have like they haven't painted the zone at all. We need 8 points, which is like, you know, 3-4 seconds. We should never lose this game. All we have to do in this spot is just back up and paint zone. We don't have to back up. We can literally just sit right here and paint zone. We don't have to back up. We just like, you know, Dread is going to be coming out this way and they're going to be painting this way. Just don't sit in their line of fire and you outpaint them. You might not outpaint them, but they're not going to contest the zone. And eventually your blaster is going to clean them up. What happened to the others? I think they just kind of traded down because we got 1 pick, 2 picks. And I think just like this fight, they traded down to a certain point. But yeah, this is just like, this is kind of troll. This is a troll play. I don't know if we're trying to up our KD. I don't know what this is. Brother, what did I just watch? Yeah, well, I gave them their praise and then they kind of troll at the end. But, you know, that happens. Sometimes it's hard to play Discipline when you're running through a bunch of games. Because you don't, like, how many times do you go through this exact moment and you just never get punished? Like, you almost never get punished here. But, you know, these kinds of decisions, they will humble you quickly. You will learn that is not how you're supposed to play the game. Oh my god, that was such a sick game. That game was so sick for so many reasons. And again, this is the other thing, minus 50, I would be, feels bad. I mean, I guess it's not too bad, but feels bad. So, this goes back to like, I don't know, like discipline, very, very important. And like, even if you lose the game, like technically they lost the game, but there was still a ton. I mean, obviously, like this is again an extreme example where they just like kind of throw at the very last second. But this is one of those scenarios where we had the opportunity to just kind of like end everything, and we went for KD. I don't know if it was an ego play. I don't know what it was, but they decided not they decided they didn't want to win the game, and they didn't win the game. So very interesting. It happens, but lesson for everyone. And yes, you could complain that your teammates went down. Yes, you could complain. You got 2 picks as the crab. How did your teammates lose a 3v2? How do you trade 1v2 into a 3v2 situation? That's where you can blame your teammates for the loss, which to some, they share some burden, but you had full control of that game and you decided not to win the game. So, at the end of the day, it's X rank is a marathon. Never, if this happens to you, never beat yourself up over a lost game, even if you do something foolish to throw it away. But always a good reminder. Never let your guard down until the game ends.